authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation.
Town, LA to the ground. Okay, we jumped right back on in here. I don't know if y'all just heard that. Like I said, Tanisha Talks Teas, we're back up here with why the immigrants of Mexico are trying to burn LA downtown to the ground for their right to stay in the country. Let's jump right into it. Hi, Facebook sippers. We're live on Facebook. Twitch. I had an itch. I had to scratch it on Twitch, y'all. Hi, sippers on Twitch. We are also on Kick and Growing. Okay. Thank you, Kick, for not kicking us out, welcoming us on Kick. Thank you, all of our newly welcome sippers. And we're on YouTube. We've reached our over 1,000 subbies. Thank you so much, YouTube. So let's jump right on into LA and why the immigrants over there are trying to burn it down to the ground.
Ice raids is coming during Pride Month. Y'all look like some Halo troopers. Anybody with undocumented family? What's up? How do y'all? What's your opinion on what's going on? What's your opinion on Pride Month? Is there a reason why y'all ice raids is coming during Pride Month? Y'all look like some Halo troopers. Anybody with undocumented family? Do you plan on shooting people today? How lethal or non-lethal are these rounds? Would you rather shoot somebody or hit them with your stick? Oh yeah, how did you end up becoming ICE? Is this like a legacy career? Are you happy that Young Thug is free? What's the probability that we're gonna get tear gas tonight? What's your favorite thing to do? Shoot people with non-lethals or hit them with the baton? They don't really want to talk. Cats got their tongue. Are you in the JROTC?
Oh, there's a little one?
Oh, yeah, that nigga gonna shoot me later for sure.
Well, we got a man there with a dress coat, tennis shoes, tie, and a black hood over his head, right in front of the federal officers here on Temple.
All right, so yeah, we're right here. We're in front of the federal building downtown LA. You know, this is a building where a lot of people get held when apprehended by ICE, federal criminals. So far, like the whole city's kind of just been swarmed by ICE. So we have ICE coming in Compton, Paramount, Linwood, the fashion district here. The head of ICE just deployed the National Guard. So tomorrow we should see around 2,000 active duty fucking military niggas pulling up. The main reason why people are here is to protest these ICE raids by coming to where all the people are being held at. The cops are lined up. They're pointing their guns at me. They're flashing lights at me. I think they're getting ready to disperse the crowd. Maybe I can ask them something. I don't know. Let's see what some of these is.
It's not exactly Swamp Fest out here, huh?
Yeah, no, but I would still say it's pretty lit out here, but you good?
It stayed pretty peaceful until the sun went down, which is just kind of how LA rolls.
They are detaining people illegally, deporting people illegally without their due process.
Can you tell me like what's been going on all day?
A lot of tear gas.
Did you get tear gas?
I did. They're terrorizing U.S. citizens. What they're doing is not okay, and they didn't like that we were gathering, so they started trying to push us back.
Additionally, they seem to be doing, I don't like to use this term lightly, but like Gestapo-like tactics to disband people, essentially, and it's wrong.
They are sighting people with green lasers and shooting rubber bullets at them, so a couple people got popped.
There's snipers on the roof over there, and there's snipers in the second floor over there. I don't know if they're snipers. What kind of guns are these?
Oh, yeah, that's a sniper for sure.
Lots of people getting tear gas, but, you know, it's LA, baby. We're strong as fuck.
We don't have guns. We're unarmed, and we're unafraid.
We're the violent ones, but look, all I got in my hands is water bottles.
when they got fucking guns.
These ICE agents are completely different from the LAPD. I've been protesting for over 10 years. It's a whole other fucking level of threat. It's a whole other level of crazy. I feel really sorry for people who think they're the good guys. They have been brainwashed and indoctrinated and are now acting out, working at the highest level of hypocrisy you can as an American citizen.
We're civilians. You're supposed to protect us. Protect and serve. Get another job. Why don't you quit your piece of shit job? You are a terrorist. Terrorist. Put down your guns. Put down your guns. Put down your guns.
Are you going to be out here tomorrow?
I am not sure yet. Tomorrow is also LA Pride, and I am of the queer community, so I might have to split my time or go with the biggest cause, which would be this.
It's fucked up. Why are they raiding people during Pride Month?
What's that?
Why are they raiding people during Pride Month?
Oh. Who the fuck knows, man?
Fuck all your homophobia. Fuck all your racism. Fuck all your transphobia. Fuck all your xenophobia. Everyone go fuck yourself. Charlotte, if you're watching this, I love you.
Hell yeah, that's your girlfriend?
Yeah, my trans girlfriend.
You're fucking up my Pride Month.
They're killing our fucking Pride Month. What the fuck? Fuck ICE, bitch. Fuck ICE, bitch. Fuck ICE.
I got melted ice. I got melted ice. Melted ice. Any of you guys want some melted ice? I'm on TikTok Live, streaming to about 4,000 people. I've been out here since about like 3, I think.
Plan on being here tomorrow?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I'm going Pride tomorrow, and then I'm going to be over here.
We're out here protesting, man. We're out here protesting against these ICE raids. It's about human dignity and human rights. I don't know why the LAPD's out here when we're a sanctuary city.
It's a sanctuary city. I was part of the movement in Pomona, California to become one of the first sanctuary cities of the United States. But all it means is that we're not supposed to enforce immigration, and the police are not supposed to cooperate with ICE. We're supposed to make sure that our community and our hard workers and our children and our families are safe.
Makes me feel like shit. I don't know why we're living in a police state in my city. Everybody's affected by this. They could come for you next.
I wish they would find missing kids the same amount they will go after immigrants and everything. The fact that there are still missing kids being sex trafficked, human trafficking, but yet they don't give the same energy to these immigrants.
And you go after the criminals, man, the real criminals. Not the innocent, hardworking people, man. No criminals at Home Depot.
Yeah.
Just hardworking people out there.
I'm scared for my family. I'm scared for other people's families. This shit isn't fair. You guys were our brothers and our sisters. What the fuck happened?
No one's a criminal on stolen land whatsoever.
They're all Hispanic. So what did their parents have to do to sacrifice for them to do with that?
What happened to being a fucking kid, growing up, thinking it would be fucking good, and then you fucking grow up and you fucking represent the opposition, fucking represent the people that hate us? You're my fucking neighbor. You're my friend. Why? Why do you do this? Leave the fucking uniform and work for people, for human beings. You know this is wrong, Miranda. You know this is wrong. Get another job. Please, I implore you.
Mayor Karen Bass, we need you here. You said you would be with your people. We are your people. I'm a native Angelino, and they are threatening us. They are terrorizing our community. Where is our mayor? Where is our mayor? Where is our mayor?
You go to cover, nigga. I'm fake, nigga. I know you do, dog. I'll spit on your plate. I'll put my dick on your plate, nigga. Fuck your family. Fuck your kids, nigga. That's how it is. I can't sleep comfortably because of you.
He be fucking getting a whole fucking plate. He be fucking expecting us to give us a whole fucking shit. That nigga right there.
Do you go to Kava?
Yeah, you do, nigga. Stop playing. Yeah, you do. Nigga, act like I don't know your fucking face. Stop fucking playing. Fucking talking about, can I get a fucking discount? Can I get a fucking this? Can I get a fucking that? That nigga right there. Point that shit at him right there. Point that shit at there right there.
He doesn't look like he go to Kava though.
No shit. Hell no. Hell no.
We ain't going to that cover.
What's your favorite thing to order at Kava?
Everything.
Galan, we went to high school together. Remember? Algebra?
Back up, bro.
We had algebra together. Oh shit, you gonna beat my ass. We had algebra together and that nigga failed twice. Why is that guy on his phone? Shame on you pigs! Shame on you pigs! Shame on you pigs! Looks like the cook is something up back there. Oh, now they behind us. All right, we're getting surrounded. Kick rocks. Kick rocks. Get out of here, bitch ass cops. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. The halo looking dudes are moving to the back and the LAPD has moved to the front. safeguarding ICE. So LAPD has positioned themselves in front of ICE. LA is a sanctuary city, so LAPD shouldn't be here enforcing these policies. I think they're getting scared. I'm a little skittish, man. Look, these niggas want to smack somebody so bad, man. I'm just a reporter. I'm just a reporter. Do you have any opinions on this? Are you guys allowed to have opinions? Is this like a hive mind type deal?
You gotta find a new job, dog, because you really know LA's about to go to flames, dog. You gotta find a new fucking job. Get another job.
Oh, shit, hold on.
What happened? Or keep the job. He's a little kid. He's a child.
Huh? I don't know what's going on. Oh, shit, what the fuck, nigga? Did someone just... That nigga just smacked me. What happened? Oh, look what's going on. What's going on? Oh, those zip ties. Those zip ties. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, we surrounded back. Who got bolt cutters? All right, hold on.
Hold on, babe. Go, babe, go.
Hell yeah.
Go, push her up.
I don't want to. Hold on, you got this? Oh, man. All right.
Go, babe.
I don't want to be. Hey. Nah, that nigga got you on the other side.
Help her, babe.
That nigga got you on the other side.
Got you.
You got it. Uh-oh.
Hey, pass me that bike, dude. Hey.
This is unfortunate, man.
Hey, pass me this bike.
Hey, bro, pass me the bike.
I got you.
Yeah.
Hey, pass me that bike, dude.
All right.
Right here in front of the fence, yeah.
Yo.
Just say they're surrounding us. We gotta jump the fence.
Oh, yeah. So right now we got it surrounded. Everyone's jumping the fence so that we don't get fucking trapped and arrested, and we can come to fight tomorrow. You feel me? For our undocumented brothers and sisters. I'm fucking tired. That was a fucking bitch. It's very loose at the top. Barely got away. And the shit's not over. Fight's not over. Some niggas is going to jail tonight. Not us though.
Channel 5 Live worldwide, Hollywood and Vine.
Fuck the authority, Channel 5 News.
Channel 55. We don't fuck with custers. And 5 is.
All right, so we started off hot, right? With a nigga down on the ground telling us about whatever's going on with the LA riots. Now, I'm going to give a more professional understanding. So Trump, as he stated, when he, well, I'm going to subscribe to the channel because I do that. If I use some of your commentary under the Fair Use Doctrine Act, I will subscribe. Anywho, yeah, Trump said that, you know, he was going to clean up our immigration problem that, you know, he felt we had in this country. So he's been doing that ever since he got elected. The very second Trump got elected, that was the first thing that he started to do, was clean up immigration. As y'all know, we had problems in this country where people were coming from all over the place, Venezuela, taking over, you know, people's homes, cars by force with guns, things like that, terrorizing our American citizens, okay? So Trump's been deporting them. Well, recently, about a week ago, they started rioting in LA, okay? So let's continue as we watch more footage and get more understanding. Thanks for sipping this tea. We are covering inside.
All right, let's just break in and take.
We are covering inside the Los Angeles anti-ICE protesters clash with police. Okay, let's take a listen and a look at what's all been going on.
Get back to Los Angeles, where there's been a tense standoff in the city between protesters and security forces after the deployment of National Guard troops to the city. These are live pictures coming from Los Angeles. You can see police vehicles and debris on the streets where all the Confrontations have been taking place. We knew that 3 cars were set on fire earlier. Protesters have now shut down a major highway there. It's the 3rd consecutive day of protests against federal immigration raids. Flashbang grenades, rubber bullets and tear gas are being fired at protesters. President Trump had ordered...
So, like, what seemingly started off as a peaceful protest has now turned into, like, you know, a full-out explosive riot that is very seriously dangerous, which has, you know, caused people's lives to be in danger all across the city of LA, as if they didn't already have enough going on with the fires recently around Christmas time. You know, now they have the LA riots of the undocumented immigrants that do not want to leave the country. Okay, and Trump said he's going to get them out of the country, as he promised he's going to clean up America. Only documented citizens can be here if you were not born here. Okay, so
the deployment of the National Guard troops, calling crowds their insurrectionist mobs. Well, protesters are angered by military-style immigration raids, which began on Friday. Armed masked agents targeted workers and day laborers, detaining about 100 people, we believe. Community advocates say the raids are designed to instill fear, and crowds had been...
And people are mad. They're mad that, you know, Trump has been made aware of people just, you know how, like, the undocumented citizens will hang out at Home Depots or however have yous around for cheap day labor if you need it. They're there to build you a house, a shed, a car, whatever the hell is needed. They're there for it. Well, Trump's been made aware that they are out there in excessive amount of people, like by the hundreds. People are having difficulty even getting into the store to even purchase the material to build anything, because it is so jam-packed with people that are standing outside. You know, and one may speculate, are they really out there for, you know, themselves to contract some type of employment or make money that day, or are they out there for other, you know, unsavory, seedy reasons? So Trump just cracked on them, and he went, you know, and had his militia and his armies, you know, National Guard, so forth and so on, go down and disperse of that type of situation. Okay.
Gathering near a detention facility, calling for people to be released. Trump says LA is suffering from lawlessness, and the mayor is accusing the government of provoking unrest. Well, Al Jazeera's Phil Lavelle has been covering these protests for us all throughout the evening and the night. Phil, when we came to you earlier, things seemed quite tense, but it was looking like the situation wasn't escalating much further. Just bring us up to date now with what's been happening in the last few minutes.
Yeah, but it has escalated dramatically in the last few minutes. I mean, what we're seeing now is some officers who are pretty much under attack. That is the 101 freeway. That has been closed off for several hours. There was a line of police vehicles there for quite a while as they stopped any cars or people from getting onto the freeway. They have been getting fireworks thrown at them. We spoke to a man just a moment ago who said he saw a scooter. We've watched in the last few minutes as burning items have been thrown from the bridges. There are people nearby who are, we've seen them with our own eyes, running and grabbing rocks and bricks. In fact, you can see something's just gone alight there, and the crowd is watching. Now, obviously, those officers are sort of hemmed in a little bit. They have got, you might be able to see, some of them have got their guns pointed outwards. These are to fire rubber bullets, rubber projectiles at anybody who fires anything in their direction. We were standing here just 30 seconds before you came to us, Darren, and we watched a man who was so close I could have touched him throw a firework down there. It didn't hit the officers, but this is the big problem that they now are facing. In fact, we just saw then, you may have seen somebody threw a bottle down there. Glass bottles, Molotov cocktails are the real fear as well, because when they go up, there we go, and there is another firework. The police are in this really tense situation now. And of course, this plays right in to what Gavin Newsom has been trying to prevent, and what the Trump administration has been saying that they need to bring in the National Guard for. They say that the rule of law and order is breaking down in Los Angeles. Now, that might be a stretch in terms of the entire city, but there is obviously that very visible element now where you can see police officers are coming under attack. The National Guard are here, they're protecting federal property. The Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, has already talked about mobilizing active duty Marines onto the streets. That now looks like that could potentially be a possibility. And remember, these protests have been going on all day, but we're starting to get into the nighttime hours now. The sun is going in. That is when these things tend to pick up. We saw it last night. And we're seeing it right now. And in fact, I'm just going to bring in this guy. This is Tim, who we just chatted to a second ago. Just give us a sense, Tim, of what's been going on, because we were taking sort of safe refuge over there for a few minutes. We saw the tear gas. Talk us through what happened.
What happened?
The flashbangs that make you jump.
Yeah, there was a lot of things going on. Stuff blowing up here. One thing I saw is like people here throwing fireworks done under this bridge and making some sort of like, I don't know, explosive concoction. Liquid.
Like a Molotov cocktail type.
Something like that. I can show you. It was like a black liquid. I'm not sure what it was. Just a lot of. I was actually trying to get out of here. They told me to go to Union Station, and then at Union Station everything's locked down. I don't want to go that way because there was a bunch of police. I don't know if they're gonna shoot or something. Just a lot of chaos, not sure, just kind of waiting for it to go away.
Intense situation. Right, thanks for talking us through it. Stay safe.
Thank you.
So, there is a lot going on. Over there is where people are grabbing the rocks, and they've been throwing them across over there. The helicopters, as you can hear, are going overhead. Obviously, officers have got the advantage of having air sight as well, so they can see where a number of these people are. And those officers, they've also got these projectiles which they've been firing at them. And I got hit by one accidentally before, these rubber bullets. They hurt when they hit. And they're obviously firing at those at people who throw items at them. But also you've got the flashbangs which are being set off to try to disperse the crowd. There are drones in the air. I'm not sure if these are drones that belong to people who are just filming it for their own reasons, or if they are being related to some kind of police activity. But, it's a little before, what time is it? Coming up to 8 p.m. in the evening. Can imagine that if it continues like this, things are going to get pretty hairy over the next few hours.
Yeah, Phil, you've been telling us all evening about all these flashbangs. We've been hearing them and seeing them on our screens, these flashbangs going off most of the evening. What are the police using to try and force these protesters back? What assets, what more assets do they have at their disposal?
So they've got a few things. The flashbangs are the main things. They don't fire them at people, they fire them over their heads. They're designed to give you a fright, to disorientate you, and by the very name of them, they flash, they bang, right? But the thing is, they went through a stage earlier on where they set so many off that people got so used to them that they weren't even noticing them. So they've had to sort of temper that down a little bit and use them as and when they need to, just to be able to frighten people and then cause them to run in different directions, because that's what they want. They want to disperse the crowd. They also have these other items that they can fire over their heads, which can cause some concussions, slightly larger noises. In fact, let me just show you what's happening now. The police are moving in. So this is the area that was closed off before. They are now closing off this road. You can imagine that they will be moving to take these people into custody or disperse people very shortly. In fact, it looks like people are being put against the wall over there by officers. I think amongst them I can see a couple of journalists who we were standing nearby recently. And they're being told to leave, and they're leaving now. They've been told to get behind the police line. So it looks like the police are obviously going to move into this area. There aren't that many protesters in this immediate vicinity. This area was packed before. This is where those 3 cars were on fire. They've now dispersed, and they've kind of spread a little bit further along. And as you can see, some people are wearing masks because they know that there is tear gas. And we've got some rudimentary masks that, just to help stop you breathing it in if it is fired. But it's pretty volatile at the moment.
Yeah, Phil, as we're talking to you, we're seeing pictures there of those flashbangs going off, people on the bridge, I think overlooking the 101 freeway, which is where you are. In terms of the security agencies, Phil, it's the LAPD riot police on the streets currently with the National Guard in reserve. How do these two agencies coordinate and work together? Do they even talk to each other?
They'll be talking to each other, but they're all different agencies. You've got the LAPD, you've got the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, you've got the California Highway Patrol who come in, you've got the National Guard who've been brought in. They all have their own unique roles and their own unique jurisdictions, but at times like this, it's all about manpower as well. You know, you've got hundreds of protesters. You need the helicopters from both the LAPD and the sheriff. You need the National Guard to look after the federal properties. So I'm just seeing some more things being fired over there. Sorry, Darren. So I think that might be some tear gas over there because you can see the smoke is slightly thicker. The flashbangs give you a flash and a bang in a short, very small area of smoke, which disappears quite quickly. The tear gas tends to linger a little bit longer. It's not spreading over here.
Horses are coming.
The horses are on the way over, so we're going to move out of the way and try to just stay with us. I'll talk as I walk, but we're just trying to get out of the way because the police are coming through. When the horses come through, which is what happened earlier today, you'll see a lot of people try to just spread out and get, you'll see the horses charging people, you'll see people try to get away. We'll be able to get out. So the police will just let us through and we'll talk from behind the line. Okay.
Across the street.
Behind the car, thank you.
Thank you. Behind the car.
Okay. So the fact that they're all getting mobilised suggests that they might be about to move in, so we'll get to safety over here and we'll just try and continue to talk. And you've got those other vantage points that you can see from the various other sources coming in. So this is the California Highway Patrol. So these are the guys that you would normally see patrolling the highways, hence the name, right? And they will be pulling people over on the highways. They are also brought in, though, when you have these large civil unrest situations where they need to provide extra support. Those guys over there behind these officers are also CHP officers in riot gear. I can't work out if these are LAPD or not. It's quite difficult to see close up. Normally you can tell on the badge, but it just goes to prove the point that we were saying about how they all work together when they have to on these different situations. But the one thing we are not seeing at the moment here is the National Guard, and that is because the National Guard are protecting the federal property, which is behind there. That is the building that these detained migrants were held. We think they may still be held. We're not too sure because there's a bit of ambiguity over whether or not they've been moved on. But yeah, it's starting to liven up a little bit here now. And actually, let me bring you around here. We'll show you here. So we have an officer here with the green thing. That green gun, that is what fires these projectiles, these rubber bullets. And let me just show you what they look like. That's what they look like. So they're big. They're heavy and they hurt when they hit you. The technical term is non-lethal projectile, but they do cause some damage. They cause some bruises. And actually, down here we can see people are running down towards the police. So I'm not sure if they've been gassed or not. I mean, it is pretty chaotic. Quite a lot of mayhem down here at the moment.
Yeah, Phil. Earlier you were talking to us.
It all. I mean, you're on the ground and they're just banging all around you.
Yeah, Phil, earlier you were talking to us about what sort of assets they have in the sky. We're hearing about drones and helicopters. Just talk to us about that as we see the events unfold here on our screens.
Yeah, so they've got obviously the helicopters that they are provided by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, by the Los Angeles Police Department. We understood that there were about 6 or 7 mobilized at various points during the day. Now, obviously, they're not all in the sky at the same time, but you would see 2 or 3 together. You've also got the choppers from all of the local news outlets, so they're all up here getting the pictures as well, and you've got the drones that are in the sky as well. So what they're doing is they're able to look from the air. They've got that tactical advantage because they can see from the air just where these troublemakers are, where these people who are firing these projectiles are, and then they can try to take them down with those rubber projectiles. Those rubber projectiles, as I say, they are aimed at people. They don't kill people, but they are designed to immobilize people just enough to get them on the ground so they can either be arrested or that they scatter.
Yeah, Phil, and you've been with us since yesterday, I think, yesterday evening on day 2 of the protest. This is now day 3 as we're looking here on our screens at a number of police both on foot and on horses moving in. Remind us again, Phil, of how events unfolded this evening to get to where we are now.
Well, this all started with these immigration raids. Now, cast your mind back to November when Donald Trump was running and was elected president. One of his key policies was mass deportations. He said he was going to launch the largest deportation program in history and deport what he calls illegal aliens, what people here might call undocumented migrants, depends on the semantics, but he said that that is what would happen. The policy was that they would go after people who were here and were criminals, so people who were rapists, murderers, drugs traffickers, people smugglers, those kinds of people. What we've seen are these raids by ICE. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So that is the federal agency that goes around and it arrests people who are undocumented. And they've launched a number of raids here in Los Angeles over the last few days, but they've been taking people into custody who, as far as we know, are not rapists or murderers or people traffickers or drug traffickers, but they are people who were hanging around outside Home Depot, a hardware store, trying to pick up a day's work for some construction, people who worked in a clothing factory. So people who are in sort of lower paid jobs, who perhaps don't speak English, but were here just trying to earn some money to support themselves and support their family. And that's what's really got to the people here, because they're saying this is not what you do here. Los Angeles is a hugely populated city of immigrants. A third of people here are thought to be foreign-born, but of course it is a city that is a sanctuary city. That means that the local authorities do not lend their support to the federal authorities as they conduct these raids, and therefore that is something that has drawn the ire of President Trump and those in his administration, and he has described them as being failing cities. He describes California as being a failing state, and he says only he is the one that can save it.
Yeah, Phil, as we're talking to you, we're seeing pictures of that quite large bridge over the flyover. I think you were talking about the 101 freeway. Talk to us about the lie of the land, Phil, and what's been happening there on the freeway, and how important is this for you? And obviously, LA, with its iconic traffic jams, this must be impacting on traffic flowing in and out of LA. Talk to us about the lie of the land there, because you were standing on the bridge looking at what was happening below you.
Oh yeah, if you ever want to come to LA and get caught in a traffic jam, take yourself to the 101, because you're going to find one there. It is a very busy road. What they did was the police blocked off all of the traffic that was heading southbound a few hours ago, and the California Highway Patrol blocked off the on-ramps and the off-ramps so that nobody could get onto it. But they left all of the traffic lanes traveling northbound completely open. And what we've seen is, as these officers, as we just saw, were coming under attack, people traveling in the other direction were honking their horns, probably, it looks like, in support of those who are protesting, because there's been a lot of people honking their horns in support of those who are protesting. But, you know, the 101 is a busy freeway, and we often see when protests take place in LA, we've seen them at various points this year over other issues to do with the Trump administration, they do take to the freeway and they start to walk down the freeway.
We're just going to go to an LAPD press conference now. Let's just listen to what the officials are saying.
You good? All good? All right, thank you. Thank you. First of all, I know it's a very busy time. Thank you all for coming here tonight and allowing us the opportunity to be able to brief the public a little bit about what's going on and what we've been doing, and ask truly an ask for peace throughout our city. I'm joined here by Gerald Woodyard, Deputy Chief from Operations West Bureau, Herman Hurtado, Commander from Professional Standards Bureau, and from Operations Central Bureau, Raul Jovel, who's also the incident commander for Central Bureau and for this incident. So I want to just take an opportunity to speak directly to the people of Los Angeles, clarify LAPD's roles and the events that have been playing out over these past couple of days. This includes our response to protests, our public safety responsibilities, and recent claims that you've seen made by some federal officials. Today I met with Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass, U.S. Attorney General of the Central District of California, Bill Aseli, and ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons. Let me begin by reaffirming a core principle. The LAPD supports and protects the First Amendment right to free speech. In recent days, many protests across the city have been peaceful, and we thank the community for expressing their views and their frustration in a responsible manner. However, when peaceful demonstrations devolve into acts of vandalism or violence, especially violence directed at innocent people, law enforcement officers, and others, we must respond firmly. An act of violence, whether toward officers, demonstrators, or the public, will be met with swift and lawful action. Our goal is to maintain order without escalating conflict and to protect everybody's right to safety. Recent public statements have misrepresented LAPD's action from an incident the other night. Specifically, there was a claim that LAPD delayed responding to a federal officer's request for assistance by more than 2 hours. When we heard that, I think anybody who's a police officer couldn't believe it, and certainly anyone with LAPD couldn't imagine how that would happen. Well, it didn't happen, and I just want to go into that just a little bit. LAPD was not given advance notice that the federal operations would occur in that area. As a result, we were not pre-positioned to respond immediately to unrest related to those actions. Once the call for assistance came in, LAPD responded within 38 minutes. And that sounds like a long time, but I'll tell you why that is. The response was impacted by traffic, crowd density in the area with unrest occurring, hazardous conditions caused by tear gas that was previously deployed by federal agents at that location. Many of our officers, because it was put together in a mobile field force configuration without advance notice, were not equipped with gas masks. But despite these challenges, we moved in quickly and as safely as possible. At no point did LAPD ignore or intentionally delay any request for help. I also want to be unequivocally clear. The Los Angeles Police Department does not participate in or coordinate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement on civil immigration enforcement. We've said this over and over again, and I can't stress it enough for the people in our community who have high levels of anxiety about this issue, that we want everybody to believe and be able to call the LAPD in time of need if they've been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime. We need that. Otherwise, the system does not work. That has been our policy and remains our policy, and it went into effect in 1979. So 46 years ago, that's been the way we do business. On the other hand, however, when a law enforcement agency, any agency, requests emergency assistance to protect lives, we are obligated to respond, and we do. Public safety is our duty, and we will answer every legitimate call for help from anyone. We recognize that immigration enforcement operations can cause a deep fear and anxiety, particularly in immigrant communities. That's why we're committed to transparency, accountability, and treating every Angelino with respect, regardless of their immigration status. Our job is not to divide communities or politicize law enforcement. Our job is simply to keep everyone safe. I want to express my sincere appreciation to all of our officers and partner agencies for their dedication and professionalism during these very challenging times. Their commitment to upholding the law, even in the face of hostility, is a reflection of the values that we stand for. We're working together to keep everyone safe, our officers and the public alike, and this remains our top priority. We'll continue to support peaceful protests and enforce the law when criminal acts occur. The LAPD remains focused on its core mission to protect lives, safeguard constitutional rights, and serve every neighborhood in Los Angeles with integrity. Let me open it up now for any questions you might have or any points that we can clarify.
Chief, the governor made a very strong statement that he didn't believe the Trump administration needed to activate those National Guard troops and take control of those National Guard troops in the Somerton area because he felt we had adequate safety protections officers here. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, if I don't know what basis they used to make that decision, but if that was based on our what I delineated here about the perceived lack of response to a help call by an outside agency, that did not happen. We did respond with mobile field force configuration. And just to explain that, a mobile field force is a configuration of people or officers within the organization that we bring in from around the city. We declare a tactical alert so we can break them away from their primary duties of answering radio calls to be able to come in, form up. They're trained in this tactic into a configuration of 4 squads or a platoon that are led by a mobile field force leader. They then go 4 deep in the car and they drive into the impacted area, and that way they can safely go in a large group of officers and able to handle whatever they come across. If we were to send in a single unit or a couple of units into a riotous scene, certainly they'd be surrounded and the outcome would probably not be good. And so this is a configuration that has worked for us, developed here, worked for us for many years, but it doesn't happen instantaneously. So we have to call in units. We have to meet at a certain location. They get the information they need to operate in the environment, and then they go and they take care of business. And so that takes a little bit of time. For us to be able to get in there in about 35 minutes is pretty much textbook. So while we'd love to be able to say we can get there in seconds or minutes, in the reality of a situation of civil unrest, we got to do it right. We got to do it safely for everybody involved.
Hold on. Go one at a time, please, and let's identify name and outlet.
Victor with Univision. Chief, we have seen two kinds of groups, at least from Friday, Saturday, and today that I've been working. The community that is enraged and they're not happy with the actions of ICE, and then the community that loots and attacks and destroys our city. What would be your direct message to both groups?
Yeah, to the people who are not happy with the fact that ICE is in the community doing what ICE does, I respect ICE for being a fellow law enforcement agency. They have their mission. They have their what they have to do. We don't engage in that activity, but again, we can't preclude them from doing that. They have every right to do that. I ask people in the community to trust the LAPD, that we're not there for that purpose, and that if they have something they need us to be able to address, we're there for them. As far as the big picture of what can I recommend they do or not do, that's something, it's a federal issue, and the federal authorities have the right to be able to do what they're doing. As far as people worried about the violence that we're seeing, this violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing. They'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers, to throw at cars, and throw at other people. We've seen people with hammers, and you've broadcasted, breaking the bollards behind the federal building and taking the rocks, if you will, or pieces of concrete, and throwing them at officers. We've had liquid of who knows what description thrown at officers. There's no limit to what they're doing to our officers. And again, as I mentioned in my statement, I can't thank our folks enough and our partner agency police officials for going out there and taking care of the community and trying to be able to put themselves between the threat and the overall community. And they do this night in and night out. And these past couple of nights, we've seen it at a level that I think disgusts every good person. Thank you, sir.
What is your position on the National Guard being deployed? Do you need them here?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I would have said that, we could handle this. I believe that we would have gone through a number of steps before we'd have deployed the National Guard or requested deployment of the National Guard. We would normally go to 50% deployment to handle radio calls and do the business of policing, and everybody else would be focused on the initial problem. Beyond that, then we would request through the sheriff mutual aid, and that would bring in members of the 44 other police departments in LA County, as well as the sheriff's office. And so that didn't occur in this case because it wasn't done through the sheriff or through up through the normal chain. It was done from the top down, from the president directing that happened, and then the National Guard was federalized. So they're working for the U.S. Army, not for the California State National Guard. Do we need them? Well, looking at it tonight, this thing has gotten out of control. I think before I could answer that, I'd have to know more about what their capabilities are, what their role is intended to be. to be able to make that determination. But we have great cops in Southern California here that work together all the time. So we have tremendous capability here. To say that we would go to that right away, I'd say we're not. We wouldn't have been there yet. Looking at the violence tonight, I think we got to make a reassessment.
Well, how has your department interacted with the National Guard, if at all, since they've been here?
I'd say very little, other than we had a conference call this afternoon. There aren't a whole lot of soldiers in place at this time. They're still incoming. But the people who are here, they're tremendous Americans here trying to do, they provide their service, doing the task that they're charged with. Our relationship has been tremendous overall with the National Guard. We worked right alongside them for 5 months during the Palisades fire. They were there every day in the beginning in large numbers, and then that narrowed down before they demobilized. But the relationship is overall tremendous. We're very, very good partners with them, and I hope they feel the same about us.
Do you feel any sense of kinship with them or about this situation, or do you see that there is need for more law enforcement and for more immigration enforcement in Los Angeles?
I think the federal agents are enforcing federal immigration law, which is their right, and anybody can have their personal opinion on to what level that should be, who should they focus on, and those kind of things. I won't take a position on that because really that's not our focus, not our job. But when I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, that's not the people that we see during the day who are legitimately out there exercising their First Amendment rights and to be able to express their feelings about the immigration enforcement issue. These are people who are all hooded up. They've got a hoodie on. They've got face masks on. They're people who do this all the time, get away with whatever they can, go out there, from one civil unrest situation to another, using the same or similar tactics frequently, and they are connected. Some would call them anarchists or by any other variety of names, but they're people that we run across routinely city to city, and this is what they do. So even more disgusting that many of the people who are doing this come in from other places just to hurt people and to cause havoc. Okay.
Do you think that the presence of National Guard increased the level to this kind of situation? I mean, you said that it's disgusting. You think that if you control it without them, it could be a different situation?
I don't know. That's a very interesting question. What was the catalyst for us seeing the second and third day of this becoming increasingly more violent? To be able to say it's because of the National Guard, I can't, because there aren't enough on the ground at this point to make a difference. I've seen civil unrest a number of times before, and generally the second and third days are more violent than the initial phase. And so this is not much different from that pattern. But certainly I think there's a number of things that cause people to come out. Much of it is they watch this and see it on TV, social media, whatever social media outlets they follow, or asking them or telling them to come down and be part of this, and they do that. And they come out here, and many come out and just want to see what's going on. They're out there with their cameras, but they're putting themselves in harm's way and potentially setting themselves up for a criminal future. When you look at some of the things that are happening here, somebody could easily be killed. And if you're part of that, then you're going to be facing those charges as well. I talked to the DA just a couple of minutes ago, and the DA will file felony charges on individuals where it's appropriate, but won't be shy about doing that where it is appropriate. And also the potential for federal charges, given the type of environment we're in. And the federal authorities don't play. And so as we move forward, I think people will be surprised in some cases for what happens to their future.
Let's go to 2 more questions. Anybody that hasn't asked already, go ahead. Thank you. Given the amount of officers and hearings in LA, how does that affect the response time to other parts of the city and safety of people that are not?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. A great question. It was, how does the the deployment of so many officers downtown or in any one part of the city affect our ability to provide police services citywide. It greatly impacts our ability because it pulls officers who would normally deployed in communities around the city of Los Angeles into one area in order to be able to address the threat that we're facing. And so other areas, when we go on tactical alert, that means we only handle radio calls of significant importance, meaning a violent crime in progress, calls that have to be answered right away. So the other calls get put on a queue and may not get handled for some time to come. And they're important to everyone who is a victim of any kind of a crime. And so when we go to tactical alert, we don't do it lightly. But in this case, we did it very quickly because we needed additional resources right away to be able to help quell the violence. And that situation, as you can see tonight, has only gotten worse.
Chief, given what you said about not being informed so you could pre-stage for the incident that started this thing, and you said, I believe that you spoke with the ICE director as well as other city officials today. Is there any effort being made for ICE to share information about what their next move is?
Yeah, that's something that we did talk about, and there's no resolution to that. And the problem is that we are guided and bound by the California Values Act, which means that we can't participate in any way in civil immigration enforcement. So the federal partners have been reticent to provide information to us before something happens because of that reason. Part of that is they want to be respectful of the rules that we have to live by, but it also, on a normal situation, not that big a deal, but in a situation like we saw here in the past couple of days, it turns out to be a very big deal. So we're going to continue to work with the partners that I mentioned and many others as we go forward to try and be able to make things as safe for everybody as we can.
All right, Spectrum.
Chief, how many arrests so far?
You have that?
Yes, Captain Royal Javel, Operations Central Bureau, Incident Commander. At least, this is very fluid and preliminary, at least 10 people arrested so far. There's arrests being made as we speak. About 3 officers injured. Unfortunately, very fortunate on very minor injuries, or I wouldn't say not minor, but they're not significant enough to be transported to a local hospital. They were treated at the scene. But we're making more arrests as we speak, and we're trying to get into that posture where we're able to make arrests. Right now, really, our officers are really under attack. If you can see when the chief was talking about, we're trying to, first of all, ensure that our officers are safe and the public is safe. And then we'll move into, if we can arrest, we'll arrest, and then obviously protect the property and our vehicles and other things like that. But as of now, 10 arrests.
And if I could just jump on, and then 29 last night as well. And so as we move forward, we will step up our arrest posture in order to hold people accountable and do what we can to stop this violence.
We're going to go 2 more questions.
Really quick, yeah, she asked a question I have to do. How long does the arrest situation?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
How long do you think this situation?
Yeah, for me, again, that would be speculative to say how long that the members of ICE will be in town doing the enforcement actions they're doing. But by calling out the National Guard, oftentimes their deployment periods are in 30-day periods. And so to me, it's going to be an extended period of time. I don't know how long that'll be. We're gearing up for that to be able to participate in a meaningful way as we move forward without exhausting our people beyond what they already are. We're a department that went through 5 months plus of the fires and dealing with the fallout from the fires. And as you can imagine, with a very limited sized department to begin with, that's a big stress on our deployment, but more so on our people and their families. So as we move forward, we'll do everything we can to focus on employee wellness and to be able to offer whatever services we can to address the needs of our folks.
Sure. We'll go one more back there because he hasn't asked yet, and so Carmen, go ahead, and then one more, and then we're gonna call it.
So just 2 questions. One, is there a chance of instituting a curfew? And 2, will you be going back and re-looking at any of these incidents that maybe there wasn't an opportunity to even arrest at the time, but going back and trying to investigate who's responsible and potentially arresting after that?
No, thank you for the question. I spoke with the sheriff today, and we discussed the possibility of implementing a curfew. We don't rush into doing that, but if we need to do that, I'll go back with the sheriff and we'll look at the options as far as that goes. And as far as give me the second part of the question again.
For some of these incidents incidents we watch unfold. A lot of people watch
Oh, yeah, I got you.
things just unfold in real time.
Yeah.
Thinking, are any of these people going to be held accountable
Yeah.
for this,
Yeah.
for the cars on fire and things like that? Is there a chance of going back?
Absolutely. When you look at the numbers of arrests we've made, pale in comparison to what will be made. There are video accounts of what happened everywhere on social media, on individuals, cameras, iPhones. We will go after that very aggressively. Go after the all available video, analyze that video, and hold whoever we can accountable for the variety of different types of crimes that have been committed. And that's something we'll do with.
And I'm a pause it there, sippers. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you guys for joining me this morning. We are covering the tensions flare in LA as anti-ICE protesters clash with the police. Okay. Started over, Trump saying he was going to deport all of the illegals. So, a couple months back, they were like, freely walking across the border. We saw that. And then a couple days ago, we see them, out in full form, however have you, just protesting that, they felt Trump was attacking the wrong individuals that are not the criminals, are not the ones that are undocumented, things like that. And it started off kind of, peaceful, if you may say. However, it has kicked up now, like the fourth, fifth day. This is the third day of coverage right here that we're watching. And it's terrible. It's a massive mob of people all along the streets of LA, downtown, I believe this is. And it's fires. It's, lots of people out destroying property, cars, each other, things of that nature. So drop down in the chat. Let me know how you guys see it, feel it. If you're around in the area, drop down. Let me know what's going on in your neighborhood. This is Tanisha Talks Teas. We are covering the LA current ICE protest riot.
With a number of different partners with levels of expertise that may be beyond what we have. No, thank you for that.
Matt Ramsey from the LA Times. Can you tell me on what charges people were arrested yesterday and today?
Do you have the specifics? Yeah.
So yesterday, the 29 folks were for failure to disperse. They were all arrested today. So today and so far, this is very preliminary because there's so much stuff going on. The stuff that we know is one person was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at an officer, a significant incident, and then another individual for ramming a motorcycle into one of our line where the officers were and injured one of the officers. Everything else is still very fluid, and I won't have that for a while. So CHP has made at least 17 arrests that I'm aware of in the freeway.
All right, thank you, everyone. Commander Hurtado will stick around to do comments in Spanish for anybody who's interested. Sure, everybody could come up and spell your name.
Captain Raul Jovel, RAUL JOVEL. Thank you.
You need anybody else?
Look at the top right corner here, sippers. It's just massive destruction. People are standing on top of cars, beating others with, it looks like some type of a board. Fires, lots of black smoke fills LA downtown.
Okay. Right, so if you're just joining us here on Al Jazeera, you've been watching a press conference live. The head of the LAPD, Jim McDonald, just updating us on events unfolding on the streets of Los Angeles, those protests against ICE immigration authorities rounding up people. These protests have been going on for 3 days now. The LAPD giving that press conference. He said he met with the governor and the mayor and various federal authorities. He said the LAPD supports the right to protest and free speech, but he said when peaceful protests descend into violence, the LAPD must respond. He said the goal is to maintain law and order without the situation escalating. He said the LAPD does not assist or join in with immigration enforcement operations. So that's ICE agents going into various buildings and taking people who they believe are undocumented migrants. I'll just say that again. He said the LAPD does not assist or join in with those immigration enforcement operations. He said the LAPD does not politicize law enforcement. He said his job, the department's job, is to keep people safe. And he said the National Guard has been federalized. He says they are not working for the LAPD, but working for federal authorities. So Jim McDonnell there giving that press conference. Let's go back now to Phil Lavelle. He's live for us in Los Angeles. Phil, so Jim McDonnell's saying there that the LAPD does not join in with ICE operations, but that's not likely to quell the anger against those ICE operations on the streets, is it?
No, exactly. And, Captain McDonald also used a word that I picked up on. I don't know if it was intentional, but at one point early in that conference, he said that they were overwhelmed. Now, that is a really significant thing to say, because the issue here is that Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass are talking about how they need to be able to keep control of the situation here. Donald Trump has been talking about how Los Angeles has, law and order has broken down. If this gives the administration a reason to say that the authorities here can't cope, then there is the potential for more federal interference, for want of a better word, or oversight, if you want to choose a different way to describe it. Could that mean that there are more National Guard sent in? Could that mean that active Marines are sent onto the streets, which is what the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, has also alluded to. So, that may have been a slip of the tongue. It may not have been meant in that context, but that is something that you can imagine is likely to be seized on at some point by those who support the administration and its policies. Now, he did talk about how, like you say, they are not providing that support to these federal raids because they are federal. Remember, Los Angeles is what's called a sanctuary city. That means that the local authorities, the local law enforcement, do not provide assistance. So they do in other parts of the country, let's say Florida, for example. They proudly say that they help ICE, they help Immigration Customs Enforcement to do that. But here in California and in Los Angeles, they don't do that. They kind of keep themselves very much separate. But like you say, that's not going to quell the disquiet, because although people here are not angry at the police per se, the anger is directed at Donald Trump. You just got to look at the signs that people have been holding all day and the phrases they've been shouting to know that. The police are what stands between them and the administration, and it is the police that are coming under attack. It is the police that are arresting people. It is the police that are being hit by those fireworks, and they are, they're in quite literally the firing line here. And so that is where it all starts to get a bit blurry between how it's going to operate between the federal side and the local authority side. But like he said, their responsibility is just to maintain law and order. And when you're seeing situations where cars are set on fire, where fireworks are being thrown at officers, where people, like he said, are using hammers to chisel away bollards to throw items at police, then that's the issue. And we've seen it ourselves. My cameraman Jim and I were walking along today. We saw people with hammers and they were hitting lampposts. They were taking the signs down, the signs that say cross here. They were taking them down so they could use them as shields, but they were also using them to whack bollards too. And people are coming here if they have hammers with them, clearly with an intent. These are not necessarily your protesters who are here to shout things about Donald Trump and to campaign and protest against those arrests. These are people who are coming here with fireworks, and like he said, these are commercial grade fireworks. These aren't just fireworks you buy in a store. These are commercial grade fireworks, so they're louder, they're bigger, they cause more damage. And people who are going with that intent, they are the ones that they are specifically trying to target here.
Yeah, Phil, just another thought from you whilst we have you on. I mean, please, you were telling us earlier that the California governor, Gavin Newsom, pleas from him to protest peacefully, but obviously Donald Trump using words like swarms, mobs, insurrection, and setting Los Angeles free. Two very different viewpoints, Phil, here coming from different sides.
Oh yeah, and it's all in the language and it's all in the imagery. So, while that press conference was on, I was just looking through my phone, looking at various feeds. Both the Homeland Security Department, so this is like an official body, an official social media account. Elon Musk was another one, have posted the same photograph. They've posted a photograph of the burning vehicle with a guy with his top off and a mask on waving a Mexican flag. Now that is an imagery that is going to appeal to a certain person, whereas there will be images that are shared by people on the other side of the political spectrum that will be showing family members that have been taken away from their families when they were outside a Home Depot hardware store just trying to get some extra work. So it's all about the imagery and it's about the language. The fact that we are hearing words like swarm, insurrection, Donald Trump saying that Los Angeles has fallen pretty much. It's fallen into anarchy and only he can save it. The fact that he's saying he can save Los Angeles shows where he stands on this situation. So you've got that, and you've also got Gavin Newsom, who's trying to tread this very fine line. He's trying to show that he is in control of the situation as the state governor, but he's also trying to de-escalate the situation, to try to calm it, because he doesn't want the federal government here taking control. In fact, he said a few hours ago, he formally asked the White House to rescind its control of the National Guard and hand it back to California. And he said, a quite simple phrase, he said, there wasn't a problem here until Donald Trump got involved.
Yeah, Phil, I want to squeeze in one small, tiny question, because you're talking about language and narratives and optics and imagery. I mean, how is social media playing into these divided opinions that you've just spoken to us about, Phil? I mean, talk to us about how both sides are using social media platforms to get their narrative across.
I mean, they're openly fighting with each other on social media. You know, yesterday, the mayor, Karen Bass, put out this statement on social media, and she said, we will not stand for this. And immediately, Kash Patel, who's the director of the FBI, hit back and said, we will. There were various messages throughout the day from Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, from Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, from Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary, from J.D. Vance, all talking about using the same language, saying that law and order needs to be protected, that these are people, these are federal workers, and I'm talking about ICE agents here, but also officers who are trying to uphold the law. These are federal workers who are doing their job. They're trying to make the country, the city, a safer place, and they are being attacked. So there's a lot of language there, and there's a lot of obviously trying to appeal to that side of the political spectrum. But, you know, at the same time, you've got Gavin Newsom, who is openly fighting with Donald Trump. And also, to a certain extent, they're trolling each other. You know, Donald Trump yesterday put a post on Truth Social in which he said how great it was that the National Guard were here and they were restoring law and order to Los Angeles. Gavin Newsom screenshotted it and he posted it on his feed. And J.D. Vance also posted it, the vice president. And so did Pete Hegseth. And Gavin Newsom replied and he said, we've obviously got some smart people at the Pentagon because when this was posted, the National Guard were not even here. So there's a lot of trying to get one up on each other as well on social media. And remember, this is a modern day age now where everything is captured on social media. People are filming everything that happens in real time. Everything is being broadcast live, not just by TV crews, by everybody in the protests and by those who are involved on the political side. So it's a very different type of protest than you may have had here like 15, 20 years ago. But social media is playing a huge part of it.
Yeah, as it always does. Phil, for the time being, stay safe. Thank you. We'll no doubt come back to you throughout the night as these protests unfold.
There
welcome back to
is
KCAL News at 9. We're taking another live look at protests against ICE raids over downtown Los Angeles. And this is a shot, as you can see, where a number of protesters are still on the streets, waving flags, carrying signs, and a show of force behind them. As you mentioned, Ruta Bay, LAPD, and a number of municipalities. Ventura County, we saw in that line of at least 3 blocks.
Look at that. Look at that. Have y'all ever seen so many police cars in your life at one time in one place? Ever. I don't think I've ever seen this many police cars.
Streets, waving flags, carrying signs, and a show of force behind them. As you mentioned, Ruta Bay, LAPD, and a number of municipalities. Ventura County, we saw.
Look at how many police cars there are. Look at the row. There's a sea of police cars spanning at least 3 blocks long. That's crazy. I mean, that's a crowd nonetheless, but that is an enormous amount of police.
appears to be calm right now, at least in this area that we're seeing, and a far different picture from last night. This is now day 4 of these protests, and it does appear calm at this hour, at least from this vantage point.
Yeah, certainly not the chaotic scene that we had last night with 5 Waymo vehicles on fire, try to set a CHP vehicle on fire, and sporadic fires all over the place in downtown Los Angeles, spread out in different areas, which was very difficult. Okay, somebody just looked like a smoke bomb or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it was looking like to me. I didn't see it come from, I got to go back and look. I didn't see it come from law enforcement, so I don't know if somebody in the crowd had it and is throwing that around.
There have been fireworks, too. We've been seeing that.
Else.
Oh, it's a fire extinguisher.
Okay, well, you know what? Our Tom Wade is in downtown Los Angeles. We're going to go to him now, and Tom may be able to give us some information about what we're looking at here. Hi, Tom.
Hi there, Pat. Yeah, we just walked up on the scene right now. We're at 2nd and San Pedro. I think you were just looking at our aerial shots from here. Yeah, can you? Yeah. Also, we're on the ground here, and sorry, there's just a lot going on here. This is the highest concentration of people that we've seen. And it definitely has a more volatile feeling here in this area. And police do have the area locked down pretty closely here. But it certainly has tension. Sorry, I'm trying to stay away from people yelling profanity. Yeah, there's definitely this is definitely the highest concentration of people that we've seen since the crowd dispersed, was broken up from the area around City Hall. Now it sounds like there's almost like a street takeover kind of. I can't see it from my vantage point, but it sounds like someone may be doing burnouts just a few feet away. I can hear them making an announcement right now. Police, I believe, are ordering the crowd to disperse. So I'm trying to get a sense of where that's happening, which is, I believe, right down the street. You're looking at the vantage point there. This is Little Tokyo. Someone just flew a drone over the crowd, and that is going to really upset police because they do have their choppers up and they're pretty low. That was a firework that just went off. I see projectiles being thrown. I can't really see directly into where the officers are, but you can see the fireworks going off, and people are standing on their cars waving flags. I see a number of Mexican flags being waved as people are standing on top of their cars. It's hard to know at this point who is here to protest in favor of immigration and immigrant rights and who is here just as an agitator. It's very difficult to discern that right now. It's very chaotic, very volatile. There's just so much. It's like a tinderbox, it feels like, when there's just so many things going on. One person does one thing, the crowd can surge, the crowd can move. It's a very fluid and difficult situation to be certain. Now someone's firing off fireworks into the crowd. That is being fired from someone's pickup truck. I can see them. They're shooting it. They have like a launcher. They have a launcher. Do you see that, Anna?
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
This is so insane. Yeah,
Well, you know what, Tom? I'm just going to say this. Maybe they can't see that line of law enforcement, that's behind LAPD there. There's almost a 3-block long.
Maybe, yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if they're going to move in.
The thing is, oh my gosh. I don't see how they can let this go on much longer the way this is going. This is too tense. There's just too much right now that could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if we just see, there could be officers that are lined up somewhere to rush in. Oftentimes, obviously you've got the chopper view, so I can't see everything around us, but oftentimes officers are in places we don't know where they are, and they just come blasting in a column and will just disperse the crowd, break it up very quickly. Certainly, this has to be an area of concern because we've just been driving around. We have not really seen much else going on.
And Tom, we're seeing these cars on the ground. Are these just random people who are trying to drive through downtown and maybe don't know what's going on? Are they protesters? Can you tell who's in these cars around you right now?
I mean, that's, Rudabeh, that's really the question I have, because it's hard to get a sense of who is here protesting and who's here just kind of for a street takeover. It's just difficult to know. I mean, I think there are definitely people who are activists that are mixed in here, but sometimes you lose a sense of really. There's no organization that I can see. There's no sort of leader. There's no one. Pat asked a great question earlier about sort of the George Floyd marches and protests and rallies that we saw, back in 2020, and there were much clearer sort of organizations and leaders and people kind of guiding and obviously the outset of those were very violent, but the first couple of days. But then things for the weeks that followed were very organized. They were very methodical. There were marches. That doesn't, in this case, it just doesn't seem like that. That doesn't mean it's not as legitimate or anything like that. It just means that it doesn't have that feel. It has more of a chaotic feel to it.
That is crazy.
I'm looking over there in the distance there. The police do seem to have a pretty strong, presence just ahead of us, up above San Pedro. But I can't tell, and obviously you guys can see from the chopper kind of better vantage point there of what they may be doing, or if additional personnel is headed this way.
Well, it's a massive show of force, and right now, we're seeing some officers get out of their vehicles. I hadn't seen this before until now. There is a line of LAPD that are right there at the front, and they haven't moved. It appears that they're trying to make sure that people don't get past them where they are. And when we bring Mike back in here, he can probably give us an exact location of where they are right now from the picture we're looking at here. So, Tom, they haven't moved, but again, they may be trying to keep them from going past them. But certainly, if they need to come out and get through the crowd, there's enough of them to do it.
Yeah, and Pat, one man just walked up to us and said, "Is this a block party?" So that's sort of to the point that we were making before, which is that it's kind of hard to know who's here to protest and who's just kind of here. We're just in that holding pattern right now where it just feels like something's going to happen, whether that means the police are going to move in or whether, we've seen some fireworks being shot off. We've seen people who are just kind of waiting to kind of see what happens next. So we're just trying to get a sense of, where that goes.
All right, so you're at San Pedro and East 2nd Street. That's what we're looking at. That's where officers are. What we were talking to Mike, he was describing what happened last night, where we saw quite a bit of vandalism at a number of businesses, at least 3 that were broken into, which is, Tom, when we were talking about the differences in protests and the organization, what we did see, unfortunately, in 2020 is a lot of people just taking the situation into their own hands, even spreading out. Remember going to Santa Monica, Melrose, and breaking into stores and using that as an opportunity to vandalize.
There was a lot of looting in 2020, and I remember in the days, we'd have the really bad violence at night. The next morning, the business owners would gather. They'd be upset, understandably. So we had the 3, yesterday, the 2 shoe stores and the T-Mobile store that all got looted pretty badly. Now, where Tom is at 2nd and San Pedro, that line of police officers, which is, by the way, I want to point out, mostly out-of-town law enforcement. It's mostly Ventura County sheriffs that are there, and some CHP officers. They are all lined up on 2nd Street going to the north. So they are occupying basically from 2nd Street through Los Angeles up until Main and almost Spring Street. There's about 3 blocks worth of law enforcement that are there. And they're, like I said, as you see somebody climbing a traffic signal here with the San Pedro marker on it to hang that flag. There's something that happened. There's something that just so very quickly switched with this group. I mean, we had been seeing, mostly calm, mostly peaceful, and then all of a sudden something happened and a couple of people, I don't know if it's a couple of people or most of the group, but somebody got in here and all of a sudden there were fireworks, there was smoke, there was things escalating very quickly compared to what it had been even, half an hour ago.
I will say, though, that law enforcement is holding the line. They did appear, those in the front appeared very calm. Looks like now they're moving in a little bit, and the crowd is dispersing, and they're taking projectiles from the crowd. They have their shields up, some of them. and taking some of that. Is there any idea why specifically they staged on this street, Mike?
I can't tell if it's just because tactically that was the smartest thing for them to do. There's nobody that can come into them from the sides. And I think, Tom's seeing that as well.
As you can see there, they are in formation. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, I was sorry. I thought Mike was asking me. The crowd just surged forward. Oh, you're fine. The crowd just surged forward, and obviously you guys probably have a better vantage point. I'm up a little bit higher now on a stair, kind of at this. It's a bank on the corner, and I kind of see a little bit better now. But I can see now it's going to get worse.
Fireworks.
They're firing things into the police line. Yeah, the fireworks. Yeah, I mean now this is just going to get ugly. The police are not going to allow that to continue. At this point, they might be starting to spread pepper bombs. I think, guys, I'm going to have to move. I don't know what's going to happen next year, and they may be beginning to spray pepper bombs or I don't want to get hit. So we're going to have to duck away.
Okay, go ahead, Tom. Yeah, we can see. No wonder they were moving closer in formation to what is happening. Does that give you some indication, Mike, that they're going to call an order pretty soon to move in?
Yeah, for sure. And let me look and see really quickly if they've done that already. LAPD's been really good about tweeting this, though I don't see LAPD down there. This is CHP primarily in the front there in the darker uniforms, and then you've got Ventura County Sheriff behind it. You see somebody moving in with fire extinguishers or in a cone. The CHP's throwing some of that smoke. We saw that last night. CHP's got both. We've seen them throw just smoke, and we've also seen them throw tear gas. There was a moment there while Tom was talking, I don't know if you guys saw it, but those CHP officers and the sheriff's deputies all reached down and put on their gas masks. So they are equipped with gas masks because we see this really large canister. I think that's smoke that they've thrown out there. This is what CHP kind of threw yesterday. There's a drone right there as well, which I'm sure is not from law enforcement. And so they'll have to deal with this. Obviously, it's difficult for them to see through the smoke, but this is why they came with 3 city blocks of cops to be able to facilitate what they need to do here. They've kind of stopped that smoke. I don't know if it was smoke or tear gas, but it definitely helped create distance between the officers and the deputies and the crowd there. And then, they'll have to, once they get out of this, the little corridor here on 2nd Street, if they push further, the law enforcement's going to have to get wider to be able to cover, some of the ground as they come into the intersection. So they'll make some sort of tactical plan, I'm sure, and try to figure out how to do this and see what these guys are doing. You see the officers, I can't tell what
they picked up something.
Yeah, went over there and grabbed something. I can't really tell what it was, but they went over there and grabbed something and brought it back. And so, it's interesting because you've got the front group on that line. You see some people sitting, they've got their hands up, but then from the back of the crowd, you have that. You have people throwing fireworks. There's a bottle right there. So it's a really interesting picture when you see the people in the front trying to say, no, our hands are up, we're not doing anything. And then in the back of the crowd, they're throwing water bottles and fireworks.
Yeah, wow, look at that.
Okay.
Oh, throwing them directly.
Tom is on the ground. Tom, what are you seeing? This is getting pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was getting pretty crazy. We just moved back because at this point, there's no way that police are not going to respond to these fireworks and the other projectiles that are being thrown. So it's only a matter of time before this escalates even further. And that police will move in at some point. We're just concerned that if they did something sudden and the crowd, surged back toward us, we would get trampled. Obviously, it's been so chaotic here. And I'm sure you can probably see from the chopper shot that, there's just a lot of stuff being thrown. And as that escalates, it's just going to make this even more dangerous. It's just this simmering thing right now that will ultimately come to a boil. There's no question about it. And it's kind of, I don't even know if you can tell when you hear those booms, like that boom it's very loud. I mean, it is like an explosion, it sounds like. I mean, it's like a firecracker that's like going off in your ear. It's so loud. It's really surreal, honestly, looking at the way this is playing out. And I'm sure, that the police can't let this go on much longer, right?
Well, it's interesting. We noticed which we saw happen last night too, when they would throw the tear gas, the canisters, and officers would try to kick it back at them like a soccer play.
Say bad game of soccer, yeah.
Yeah. So now it's pretty incredible. I ask you this question, Mike. We know these are primarily Ventura County police or police from other jurisdictions. So LAPD,
You can see the PDs.
they observing all of this, and maybe they'll make something. They surround, create a perimeter.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look.
They have enough of them.
CHP's got a fixed-wing aircraft above, so they have at least have eyes on it that way. Certainly, if we're in a mutual aid situation, Ventura County Sheriff, CHP, absolutely could call an unlawful assembly. Now, they just don't, LAPD is kind enough to tweet it for us, so we can keep an eye on when that happens. But these officers certainly could be able to do that. Everybody you see in the black is CHP. That's primarily their special response team, mixed in with other officers as well. And then behind them, and it looks like those guys are a little bit further back now, but behind them, that's where we saw the Ventura County, right there, that second line, is the Ventura County Sheriff's deputies. So you've got that front line, and the reason that CHP is probably in front is because they appear to be a little bit more prepared for the situation. They're in a bit more tactical gear there, as you see. And then we'll have this situation here where now you've got this big gap between the protesters and the officers, and then eventually the protesters will start. See, that I think was CHP throwing something.
It looked like one of the protesters picked something up, had his or her hands in the air, and then was hit by something coming from the other direction just now. Yeah,
there should be an officer, I think, on the right side of the screen that's got a launcher that they were launching. This is what we saw them do last night, too. That is launching the tear gas canisters over into the crowd. And they have some good distance on those things, too. They were able to shoot them pretty far to get them into the crowd. And you saw it right there. So that guy, see him moving around with the black? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's one of the tear gas launchers. Right here. And it was very effective on the crowd. And John, if you can go back over to the crowd, I want to see how far back they went. Because that's what we saw yesterday, too, on the freeway. It doesn't feel good. And so this will really weed out the people who are like, okay, it's time to go home, and the other people who are here to, cause problems. And as you see the crowd start to move, I believe that is down Alameda, John? I'm sorry, I keep saying Alameda, San Pedro. So they're now moving kind of in a southwesterly direction down South San Pedro.
There is no way, I'm asking a question, are they concerned about the exits? Do they have them blocked off, or do they feel they don't need to do that?
I think at this point, we're pretty far, and they're moving in the opposite direction of the freeway.
Okay.
So I don't think that we're in a situation, unless they were to, circle back and go back to the north, we're moving away from the freeway pretty significantly away. So I think we're okay on the freeway right now.
And, they also have to think about the buildings above them. There are a lot of tall buildings, rooftops all around them that they also have to, keep an eye on from all directions. And they were really holding their line, exercising a lot of restraint. And then you saw from the crowd projectiles, fireworks. At one point, there were little fires started in that police line. And that's when they really started responding.
It really is. And, I was even having a conversation with our executive producer about the temperature of this crowd. And when we had talked, it was like, yes, the protesters are there, the cops are there, but things seemed to be okay. And then all of a sudden it wasn't.
Okay, let's go back to our Tom Wade. He's back online with us. Tom, are you still hearing loud bangs and... Yeah, you are.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's nonstop, right, Pat? It's going nonstop. And I can tell you, though, it looks like but now they're like firing into the walls, it looks like. I mean, I don't even know where they're aiming these things, but it looks like a lot of the people in the crowd have dropped back, and it looks like some were hit by tear gas because they're trying to clear their eyes. But yeah, they're still firing these fireworks into... one of them looked like it was shot into a building, but they do look like they're being fired at police. But as you probably have that better vantage point, whether or not I can't tell if they're coming from the police or from the CHP.
Yeah, those are from CHP.
But yeah, people are dropping back. Oh, they are? Okay, yeah. I mean, that's what I thought. The other ones, I could kind of tell when you were saying that it was coming from CHP. It's a different sound, and I could see there one of our other news stations. Their truck was trapped in the crowd. They're trying to get out. Obviously this is so volatile. Thankfully we were parked a little bit further away, and I'm sure they're just relieved to get out of there. But yeah, you can see now, or I can even see now from this vantage point, it looks like they've really cleared out a lot of the people. There are still, a scattered bunch of crowd, and I can tell they're about to surge again. They're moving back toward us, and then they kind of charge back toward the office. And I don't know if they're like making a barricade. It sounded like they knocked something over. Yeah, oh wow. Okay, they're all surging toward, and perhaps like a car, I think. Oh my gosh, this is nuts. Okay, so they're all. You might be able to see they're like behind a car right now. Now everyone's running. Oop! Now everyone's running. All right, everyone's running.
Oh, that's a trash can. Are there people pushing the trash can?
Yeah, they gave it one good
I
push
see it.
and go right into the officers.
Oh, the one guy stopped it.
Yeah.
All right, so that was just being annoying, if you will.
Right.
Right. Thank goodness there was nothing in the dumpster.
And now you've got the crowd that has splintered. Some of them went down San Pedro. Some of them are down on 2nd Street, which is good because it makes the crowd smaller. But at the same time, it makes it kind of harder for law enforcement to figure out which way they want to go. So we'll probably see law enforcement stay at this intersection until they can figure out how they want to push or if they'll split and push both ways. We'll have to see how they handle it. But they've had to kind of spread out now because of the distance and the wide area now that they're sitting in here at the intersection.
And thank goodness we don't see stores being vandalized.
Yeah.
And last night they were at, was it an AM PM or a gas station?
Yes, like a Chevron or something, I think.
Downtown?
Yeah, and that's when, and I think that's where Lori was. That's where the van thing happened.
Mhm.
And as soon as they got there, all the lights at the gas station turned off, and that business was like, no, thank you, we don't want any of this. And then they kind of, stayed there for a while. They lit 2 trash cans on fire there. They didn't really do any damage to it, but they hung out there for a pretty decent amount of time.
Well, I'm sure law enforcement is stationed in various locations. We're seeing a majority of them now, as you mentioned, though, but they aren't LAPD. So obviously, pardon me, LAPD is at different locations that we're not necessarily focused on right now.
Right.
Which is helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's the design of mutual aid, is that last night what was happening is these guys would move, and so we had a pocket that was almost in, Chinatown, and then all of a sudden they popped up near LA Live, which geographically is the total opposite end of downtown, and it made it difficult for LAPD to hurry up and get over there.
Okay, they're doing something. They're moving in.
Yeah, they've got those pepper balls trained on the remainder of the crowd that went down San Pedro here. And there you see, so that is CHP. I know they look like fireworks sometimes, but that's CHP shooting more tear gas to keep the crowd moving.
Well, they seem to be moving.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it seems to be working, and let's see. They seem definitely more at the ready now, and an increased number as far as the line. They're 2 or 3 deep in some instances, and they have been taking a lot of projectiles, fireworks. At one point, there was a small fire started where they were now a dumpster that they had to fend off. So they are they've been on defense for a while now, and then they went on offense and dispersed the crowd.
I haven't heard about any more arrests. You wonder if they're still doing that, if they're still taking people into custody. I know that was a rather different location where they had those buses.
Yeah, I actually think, John, can you show that to us? John's in a spot, Sky Cal is who I'm referring to when I talk about John. He's in a spot where he can usually see both. So, John, I don't know if you can go back to Alameda and see if they're still facilitating those arrests over there. It's just, I think Sky Cal's almost like right on top of it. So he'll pan over and we should be able to see where that location was. Yeah, it was right here. And it looks like they're just about done with that. I mean, they're probably still processing people. You still have the bus there. But I don't necessarily see any more protesters in this location.
But look how many vehicles are there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe a couple.
It's a big law enforcement presence for sure. And you can see a lot of the officers moving in right now across that intersection. So there must be something going on, some sort of information they have. They're forming a line at one of the crosswalks and then moving across the street.
This corner and that corner.
Yeah.
And they've got one lined up as well.
And this is all LAPD right here.
Yeah.
So clearly they coordinated this with multiple agencies, and this is a coordinated approach now. I'm sure they knew to expect something like this given the events of
Sippers. Okay, coming in hot early this morning. Okay, we've been up early this morning covering Diddy, covering the LA ICE raids. Do y'all see the numerous amount of police cars? Okay, there's a lot of police cars. There must be a lot of other crime.
the past few days.
A lot of other crime going on in LA right now because all the police are at the raid. Like there's 100 police cars at the raid.
Right. Yeah, and this situation looks like, you know, pretty wrapped up at this point. I mean, there was those people that we saw with Lori that were being taken into custody. But by the way, a CNN reporter was detained at that location as well, and detained, put in handcuffs briefly, and then escorted out of the area. It doesn't sound like they ever processed him or took him, but I was just looking at our, you know, we're a CNN affiliate technically, so I was looking at some of the video they were putting up on the server of that interaction happening. CNN crew it says they were removed by police from a protest zone in downtown, but this reporter was, you know, had his hands behind his back, and the security guard that they were with, and they were escorted out with their hands behind their back from that location.
I wonder if that's because they didn't disperse when they asked them to.
Yeah, we're not exempt from that. We work with our local law enforcement about where we're supposed to be, where it's safe for us. Certainly, we have a constitutional right to do what we're doing, but to an extent, and we go to trainings with law enforcement to be able to know where we're okay to be in certain situations.
And if they say move, you move.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to Tom Waite. Tom, have you changed your position?
I just moved back a little to avoid being pepper bombed or pepper sprayed. But I'm like right in that same intersection that we've been talking about. We're just, you know, just a little back from it at 2nd and San Pedro. So the crowd is dispersed, as I'm sure you can probably see a bit, but there's still a lot of people that are still here. It's just more scattered. And we're still hearing these huge booms, and I don't know where those are coming from, if those are from the CHP or the officers or from the people here in the street. But yeah, there's people lingering. There's a number of people kind of watching on the side. That has to be from the CHP. Those two boom sounds. Yeah, I don't. What is that, Mike? Is that a flash bomb or is that?
It's a mix of tear. Sometimes they're using tear gas. Most of the time they're using tear gas, but they're shooting it out of a launcher. So it shoots and then it delay kind of, you know, I don't want to say explodes, but ignites, and so it looks like a firework. We see it flash like a firework, but it's actually a canister of tear gas.
I wonder where they're shooting it because we're directly in front of them and I don't see them landing. I did see one. Oh wait, I think I see where one of them hit, but we're like directly in front of them. I mean, obviously down the street. So I'm wondering which direction. Are they firing it toward like on San Pedro?
Yeah, they're standing in the intersection and they're shooting it towards San Pedro. So there's a couple of officers right there on the corner of the intersection and then shooting it down San Pedro.
Okay. Yeah, and it looks like some of the folks that are here still are kind of moving back toward the intersection now. It definitely feels like, you know, like they're not ready to give up this confrontation. But, you know, I would say officers and CHP will have them outnumbered pretty shortly if they don't already.
Well, we're looking at a number of people in your shot where they just look like they're looky-loos or they're there just to see what they can see. Some of them are holding flags. Others we can see running. And a lot of people they're live streaming. They're using this as a social media event. You can tell.
Yeah, exactly, Pat. Yeah, that's so true. Now everyone's running again, so that must mean they fired some sort of, you know, pepper spray or some sort of pepper bomb this direction because everybody's surging back. And you could hear the rapid fire, boom, boom, boom. They are being more aggressive, meaning the CHP or the officers, and it's in succession. And it's there's a woman I can hear just to my left. She's offering people eye washing if they've been affected by the pepper spray. I actually can't feel any of it yet or taste it. What I can smell and sort of taste is the smell of paint because people are tagging the buildings and the smell is so strong. At first I thought it was pepper spray, and I just saw like the guy next to me, he's moved. He had a huge can of red spray paint in his back pocket, and I don't know if it was him or someone else who has red spray paint, but the building to my right, this federal something building, has got a bunch of red tagged spray paint stuff all over the walls. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm seeing more officers now, and I'm seeing fewer in the crowd. You can tell that these tactics are having the desired effect for LAPD officers. There's much fewer people here, and I think that the just sort of shock and awe of the boom, boom, and then of course of the tear gas. It's enough to. I mean, that stuff is very effective. There are people here that have gas masks on, though. There's a lot of people, and sort of face masks as well. But I think there are people here with goggles and all kinds of things to try to stop the spray paint from. Or not spray paint, from the pepper spray from affecting them.
And Tom, are you on 2nd Street, or you're on 2nd Street, right?
Yeah, I'm on 2nd Street. I'm looking at the San Pedro sign. Yeah, I'm looking at from my vantage point, so I can see the San Pedro Street sign like from the traffic light from where I'm standing, and we're like a half block back. We were right on top of it, for a bit, but then it was just getting too tense and too volatile. Like our photographer here, Anna, who's doing an amazing job, was like, this is the moment, and she was absolutely right, because after that, I think the CHP really started engaging and deploying their less than lethal tactics.
Well, it's I don't think you can see from our vantage point, Tom, but where those officers have apparently, CHP, a lot of them have moved from that front line position further into the crowd, and we've seen the crowd periodically move up these dumpsters, and it almost looked like they were trying to form a line full of dumpsters, as if that would stop law enforcement from coming through. And now we see a vehicle going pretty fast here. Looks like they're going to try to be closer. Now they're going to turn around.
And Pat, I think the officers are pushing forward too. Mm-hmm. They may be doing that move where they rush forward. Oh,
yeah,
and there's
vehicle was thought at first this car was going to try to go through, but no, they turned around and they're coming back in the opposite direction.
Which really is the best
situation.
Okay,
so so I don't know. The crowd's responding again. They're kind of pushing back. But I can't really see. Oh, I see. Oh, look, you can see. Yeah, the officers have now formed a line, and they're moving further and further down 2nd Street, and they are pushing the crowd back to the point where, they've almost cleared the entire crowd. Now that a little scary there for a second. I thought there's a Toyota Corolla that accelerated very quickly toward the officers, and it was unclear what it was going to do, but the driver turned around now. So that's good. Everything just seems volatile right now, right? After several days of this, you just don't know. Yeah, no, this is all right.
and Tom, I want to just point out to our viewers really quickly, if we can, put the inset back with Tom in the helicopter, because where Tom is on 2nd Street, where SkyCal is San Pedro Street. Now you have the officers at the intersection there. They have split into 2 lines. So you have a line of officers that are walking down 2nd Street to where Tom is, and then you have a second line of officers that is walking down San Pedro Street. So earlier when we talked about how on 2nd Street there were 3 blocks of law enforcement officers that were moving through the area, that's why, so that they could split, and half of them could go down 2nd Street, and half of them could go down San Pedro Street. As we begin shortly here, KCAL News at 10, Juan Fernandez, Susie Sa here with us at the anchor desk. This is certainly the most activity we have seen in quite some time tonight, guys.
We thought it was a quieter evening when we came to you last. First of all, during the 7 o'clock hours when we saw the protests really thin out, and the crowds were really thinning out, and there were no dispersal orders officially at the time, but police did have some big vans or a big bus ready to detain people if need be, but we actually didn't see that happen.
Mm-hmm. By the time that we handed over the newscast to Ruta Bay and Pat, things seemed calm. I walked away feeling like, okay, perhaps the worst of the night is over, but of course, as the evening progressed, we did see things get a little more tense. But there from SkyCal, Mike, you're looking at a pretty clear street. So I'm guessing it's just smaller groups of protesters that are hanging back.
Yeah, well, and thankfully what happened is, and this is what happens every time law enforcement pushes forward, they've splintered. So you had a group go down 2nd, you had a group go down San Pedro, which made the group a lot smaller, which of course is good news, because every time the group splits, that's what we want, is for it to get smaller. So Tom is there on 2nd Street, the chopper is looking at San Pedro Street, and on San Pedro Street anyway, there seems to be a few more people, but they're very, very spread out, and there's even, I think even less people on 2nd Street where Tom is.
All right, for those of us just joining us right now, This is KCAL News at 10 o'clock. Another night of protests against immigration raids here in Southern California.
Well, within the last few minutes, things have escalated dramatically with protesters firing fireworks at police.
And police are out in force in downtown LA. We counted more than 50 police cars. Look at this, from departments across Southern California, all lined up and blocking streets.
Well, on night 4 of the protest, police are doing mass arrests. Our KCAL News crew there as officers are cuffing people who ignored an order to leave.
And the protests also spreading south to Santa Ana. Tensions between police and protesters boiling over, with law enforcement going into the crowd to go after this guy in the yellow hoodie.
Also tonight, Marines are reportedly rolling toward downtown LA after the Defense Secretary mobilized hundreds of them. Another 2,000 National Guard troops have also been federalized and called up. But what are they all going to do once they get here?
All right, let's go back to our Tom Waite, also in downtown Los Angeles for us tonight, giving us an idea of how things are on the ground for us right now. Tom?
And you know what, Juan, right now it just feels a bit tense in the sense that I think there's a lot of anger here out on the street. There's a lot of people who are very, they're frustrated. They feel like some of the tactics out here have been heavy-handed. Again, I'm not saying whether they all have or have not been. I'm just saying I think that there's definitely a sense of, the volatility, the sort of like any moment, tempers could explode. It just feels like that kind of that level of kind of uncertainty, and I think it's been now days and days of people of anger and rage, and what we just saw just play out a few minutes ago was it appeared protesters or people here in the crowd firing fireworks into the line where CHP and LAPD officers were standing, over and over and over again, and CHP then responding by using their less than lethal devices, which included anything from I think it was some sort of pepper spray or pepper bomb. They were firing these canisters, doing whatever they could to kind of get the crowd to disperse. And to a certain extent, it is. And I mean, look at the contrast here. We have a food truck right here, just beyond where you have a massive police column of kind of. Where we have all the way down at the end of the block here. So it just gives you a sense of the two different things going on in LA tonight. You have this, corner of the city where basically I think the reason why people ended up back in this area is because they were flushed out of the main part of where they were protesting earlier, which was right by the detention center and right by City Hall. Now, of course, police kind of blocked off a lot of those areas starting earlier, and I think that the idea was to not let this go and escalate the way it has in other evenings, just the past few days. So, but I think what happened was the impact was that people moved to this area, but even though it's much further away from where they were, it still was an area with like a sort of tinderbox kind of feel to it, where I think police realized they had to move in, and they did. And there was, obviously some moments where it was pretty tense, where they were firing the fireworks and then the other countermeasures. And so now you have got a number of choppers from police and other agencies. They are in the air, and they are really sort of locking down the intersection. They have already dispersed this crowd. There's still people here standing around and kind of watching what's going on, but not engaging the police like they were. They are very much sort of like hanging back and kind of watching now. And we'll see if more people end up leaving, but right now things have calmed down quite a bit.
And Tom, it just goes to show you how quickly things change, right? One moment things are very agitated, the next suddenly, as we're looking here, as you said, the crowd is thinned out. Maybe you have some stragglers there, but it's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, Tom, any idea what may have incited that escalation earlier, though? I mean, you've been there all night for hours, and then suddenly this escalation.
Yeah. Susie, I think it's just the continuing crescendo of emotions and anger. There are activists in the crowd, but also there are agitators. I saw a couple of guys with spray paint in their back pockets tagging buildings. That obviously has nothing to do with what's going on, the issue at hand, right? So there are people taking advantage of this. There are people who come here just to cause problems and incite. Whereas, and that when you have a crowd of people who are already kind of on the edge, can then create an explosive environment. Now we see a lot more police officers, and they're probably going to rush down the street. And let's move back. They're probably going to charge down here, so we're going to move back a little bit. But they're forming a line. But Susie, I think just basically what's happening is it's just a culmination and a gradual building, a simmer that comes to a boil of anger about the ICE issues, and then obviously a lot of these protesters were forced back by police to this area. They were forced away from where they were. So I think there's just, it's just one of those things where the emotions boil over, and you get a bunch of people who are fired up into one tight space and angry and frustrated, and so then you see the volatility kind of unravel from there.
All right, our Tom Waite live there in downtown LA. Thank you so much, Tom.
All right, let's get to our...
But KCAL's Lori Perez also live in downtown LA for us tonight, just like Tom Waite was. Lori.
Yeah, we're actually not that far from where Tom is, but boy, what a difference it is where we are. This is an intersection that not so long ago was filled with protesters facing off with police. Then about an hour ago, police started to cuff people after repeated announcements asking them to go home, telling them to leave this area. They started to cuff people. I know we have some video of them taking people into custody and then loading them up on these big white LAPD buses that we see that they use when they start to make mass arrests. And so we saw that about an hour ago. They took away two full buses, maybe about 40 people who had been standing off with police for hours on different intersections throughout downtown Los Angeles. In the time since they started putting the cuffs on, now this intersection is pretty clear, but for about 3 or 4 protesters on one side and then 2 protesters on the other side. In fact, we were just remarking it's pretty surprising at the number of LAPD officers who remain lined up on this intersection facing off with just a handful of protesters. Of course, we don't know their strategy. We don't know if they're posted up here in case that situation where Tom is starts to get mobile and move in this direction. But, still quite a force of LAPD officers situated here again in the Arts District. They've been here for hours now, everybody kind of waiting and watching to see how the rest of this night plays out. But for now, it is calm on this corner in downtown Los Angeles. Again, such a stark contrast to where Tom Waite is, which is not so far from where we are at all. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, no doubt. And Lori, regarding those people that were being arrested, it looks like they are being taken in. It's not like a cite and release and off they go. They are being taken in and to get booked.
Yes, that's right. We saw them loaded up on the buses. Again, 2 full buses, probably about 40 people. Yeah, they were loaded up and they were taken away from here. So they have a long night ahead.
Yeah, clear message that they're not playing around with these protests. If they catch you vandalizing or breaking the law, they're going to take you in.
Absolutely. Well, as we watch these crowds thin out in downtown LA, we want to show you these pictures of protesters still in the streets of downtown LA tonight, still making their presence known, and the LAPD still doing so as well. Mike was telling us earlier that many more officers are actually possibly on shift tonight if they were needed, as a citywide tactical alert was issued earlier tonight, right, Mike?
Yeah, citywide tactical alert was issued tonight. It was in effect last night, the nights before that. As we watch this group, there's bars over those windows, but you've got the, So now we're starting to swipe it.
Skateboarder, see that, Mike?
Yeah. Hopefully they don't, it didn't look like a real hard effort, so hopefully it doesn't actually get into anything there, because the last thing we want is to start seeing businesses being looted like we did see the last night. This is the crowd as the chopper kind of moves around. We can show you some video here. This is the crowd that really got active with the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, the California Highway Patrol. We watched as they started to put on gas masks here, as fireworks were being thrown at those officers. CHP responding very quickly after kind of being overwhelmed for a brief moment with those fireworks. But really, as soon as CHP started to do their thing, that crowd moved fast. And by do their thing, I mean lots of flashbangs, tear gas, all of those things that were put at those protesters that caused them to splinter off into 2 different groups, one down San Pedro and one down 2nd Street. Now, I also want to show you some more video, because we also saw a drone flying through this area. Now, It's more than likely just for recording purposes and for video. And, you know, right there in the middle of the picture in the cloud below the traffic signal, you see it now flying to the left of the screen. What's unfortunate, though, Chief Jim McDonald said yesterday that they even encountered, or today rather, he said today that yesterday they encountered people with two-way radios that were communicating with each other and being able to coordinate. So hopefully that drone was not a part of any of that effort and just a terrible social media kind of stunt that some people are trying to do. Now, I want to show you more here because we saw this last night. We're seeing a little bit tonight where these protesters are trying to do makeshift barricades, essentially. We watched as this dumpster was given one good push and pushed into the line of the CHP officers. Thankfully, it didn't have that much momentum, and CHP was able to just get it to kind of stop where it was right there without it doing any more harm. We'll take you back out live now to the helicopter that is kind of monitoring the situation. You see that very large contingent of Ventura County Sheriff's Office, CHP, all of those different agencies that are now here trying to deal with this, guys.
And Mike, they're going to stay here as long as needed, right?
As long as needed. Mutual aid is in effect until it's not. You know, the sheriff is in control of that here in LA County, and he has said that we will do this as long as we need to. And we've got the support, they say, of our partner agencies from the CHP, Ventura County Sheriff, all of the San Gabriel Valley cities have been there. We've seen a lot going on, guys.
So even if the street's clear of protesters, law enforcement's still going to stay out there, right?
Yeah.
And just in case as day breaks for Tuesday here.
Exactly.
Downtown LA.
Yep.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. Let's get...
We are sipping the tea. We are sipping the tea, sippers from the LA, currently on fire with the riots. It's sad. And we're going to keep, you know, LA in prayer. They just went through, you know, the fire in the Palisades, all that. Going to take years to rebuild, right? And now they have this going on. So we're going to sip a little bit more tea. Then I have got to get to some matters of affairs of my own life.
Possible flashbang. You can see scooters and rocks, all those items thrown down on top of law enforcement. The protesters now on top of the overpass, still throwing those items. It is nonstop, and about a block away is where we saw those Waymos on fire. As for LAPD, we're only seeing California Highway Patrol at this certain location. A couple blocks away towards City Hall, there was a massive LAPD presence. It seems like they've kind of been pushed this direction. But for now, that's what we're seeing as it's pretty intense out here. Sometimes police firing back at the protesters with those flashbangs and those rubber bullets from down on the freeway. Go ahead and send it back to you.
Yeah, we just saw that protester lob a piece of rock or concrete over the edge there down to the 101.
I'm surprised, though, to see part of the freeway open there. As we have that wide shot there, you can see police have one side of the freeway completely closed with their vehicles. The crowd still, as Matthew said, with that overpass, yet Matthew, part of the freeway, the other side is moving.
Yeah, definitely. You want to warn your family or friends that's traveling through downtown on the 101 northbound. It's still open. So there are people on top of these right now, as you see, throwing rocks and bottles and e-scooters onto the freeway, kind of anything that they can get. But we did speak with the mayor just a little while ago, and she's blaming this chaos on the President Trump administration.
What we're seeing in LA is chaos caused by the administration. People should exercise their right to protest. That's their First Amendment right. But people should also exercise that right peacefully. We do not want to play into the administration's hands.
How do you think that vandalism impacts the overall message of the protest?
Well, I mean, I first of all, I think protests need to be peaceful, period. And anytime it deteriorates into violence, that is a problem, and it absolutely messes with the overall message.
Yeah, just take another live look here. You can kind of see the situation. It's pretty much out of control at this point. We're not, again, seeing any LAPD. We're seeing tons of rocks, bottles, and graffiti, and just it's ongoing right now. Go ahead and send it back to you.
Well, we should note, Matthew, that Earlier, people were on the freeway, so they have made some progress when it comes to law enforcement and getting people off the freeway and onto those side streets, those surface streets, that overpass. But earlier in the afternoon, we saw that freeway was packed with people and a lot of protesters there.
Exactly, yeah. So it looks like the California Highway Patrol pushed the protesters off of the 101. And since then, we're seeing this situation where the protesters kind of have the higher ground on top of members of law enforcement. They've abandoned their vehicles at this point, and the vehicles are taking a massive beating from these protesters. And
they've got
sometimes
the
we'll see
protesters
members
at
of
the
law enforcement
geographical
step
high
out.
ground, but not the moral high ground here. Their ire is misplaced. Matthew Seedorf, thank you so much for that information. And we do have team coverage. Not only do we have Matthew on the ground there in downtown LA, but we also have Gina Silva. She's live for us in Pasadena, where protesters are gathered outside a hotel where ICE agents are believed to be staying. Gina?
That's right, Susan. There's actually 3 hotels that are nearby. And as you know, with social media, word spreads so fast. And when you start seeing Homeland Security vehicles and Border Patrol vehicles in the area in a very quiet Pasadena neighborhood, the community immediately came out here. They were very upset and they demanded those agents leave. Take a look.
ICE Argentina! ICE Argentina! ICE Argentina!
These Pasadena residents spent their Sunday protesting outside the AC Hotel on Madison Avenue after social media posts showed Border Patrol vehicles parked outside, confirming agents are currently staying there.
ICE Argentina! ICE Argentina!
It is incredibly disrespectful and traumatizing that our city is hosting, apparently, ICE agents and that Los Angeles is a sanctuary city.
Agents are being housed in these hotels, and that just still is an issue for us because it makes our community members unsafe.
These things are cause for alarm, and I think that's why you see so many people out here.
California State Senator Sasha Renee Perez, who represents the 25th district, including Pasadena, says she received reports that ICE agents were asking hotel employees for documentation. She says many workers were so uncomfortable they walked off the job.
People's rights are being violated. Due process is not being followed. I've been speaking with attorneys at the ACLU. People are being denied their right to an attorney. All of these things are incredibly concerning. In addition to that, I heard that 80 people were arrested yesterday, a majority of whom did not have any sort of criminal record.
As more people gathered to protest outside the AC Hotel,
Show me what democracy looks like!
Management called the Pasadena police. Officers explained that anyone, including ICE, is legally allowed to stay at the hotel.
Anybody's free to stay here, basically, whether they're on duty, off duty, or get any type of guest, as long as they're not committing a crime.
By late afternoon, musicians joined the protest, playing songs aimed at La Migra, a term used to refer to immigration and customs enforcement.
This is a campaign that's being carried out to sow fear in the hearts of people who have been here for a long time, working hard, contributing to our economy, contributing to our society.
ICE, get out. We are a sanctuary city, and it is time. As a government teacher, we have rights, and so do our students. Documented or no, you are all Americans.
It was a peaceful protest throughout the day, and about an hour ago, 4 Homeland Security vehicles and 1 unmarked left the building. They were actually chased by the protesters. Joining me is Hector Rivera. You were there. You were witness to this. Describe what happened.
Yeah, today since noon, we have been waiting for federal agents to leave the premises. And about an hour ago, the community that showed up and organized kicked them out. We literally ran them out of town. And I want to communicate to everyone that that's what we should do. We should organize and really, show them that they're not welcome here.
As I understand, the management asked them to leave because they didn't want the protest to continue outside of the building for the other people who are staying at the hotel. But we really don't know if they just left to go on a mission or if they're going to come back.
Yeah, I'm with the Community Self-Defense Coalition, and we monitor ICE activity throughout the county, and we will continue to keep track of what they're doing, and we will call out our communities to show up like they did today to effectively remove them from our community, let them know they're not welcome here.
Yeah. All right, Hector, thank you so much for speaking with us. I know that a lot of the folks that I spoke with throughout the day, they're very passionate about what they're doing. They want to get the word out. They, you know, a lot of them feel like peaceful protest is the way to go. And I can tell you that that's what happened here today. There was a lot of dancing that was taking place. In fact, they started like a little mini concert dancing area right over there. And, you know, the music was loud. And obviously, some of the people staying at the hotel may not approve of that. But that was the whole point, you know, to make it disruptive for the ICE agents who were at the hotel.
Gina, just for my clarity, did you say that the ICE agents went into this hotel and then asked for people's ID?
The senator, the California senator we spoke with, said that her office received numerous calls saying that the agents, when they were checking in, when they were in the building, that they were asking for documentation. And the workers immediately felt uncomfortable and they walked off. That's the information we received from the senator herself.
Got it. Gina Silva, thank you very much. All right, let's take a look at what Sky Fox is over right now. As you see there, this is the view from downtown LA, looking over the 101 freeway, going southbound, I believe. Isn't that what Matthew said, that the southbound traffic is closed and shut? And you watch as some of the protesters that are standing on that overview there, they're throwing constantly rocks onto those patrol cars, and you see lots of other debris and the cars are definitely showing some scarring from that experience.
You see a number of scooters there on the ground as well. It looks like maybe a bicycle tire there as well. But you don't see our people. And that's what we had earlier this afternoon. People there on the freeway. Protesters had spilled out onto the freeway, and they used their tactics, law enforcement did, to push that crowd back up onto the surface streets there. And you have them tonight on this overpass. Now, it is still fairly light out here on this Sunday in Southern California. You don't see a mass amount of people, but there have been protests going on literally all day. So I'm wondering, Susan, how many people will hang around as it gets darker out? Have they made their point today? This is day 3 of protests.
Yeah, well, we watched, it wasn't a big crowd, but we watched a crowd that stayed fairly active until almost midnight last night. I'm just, impressed is the wrong word, but it is remarkable how many rocks are being thrown and how consistently they're being thrown from that overpass. Okay, so it's this kind of scene, however, that is sort of stoking the Trump administration. And today, President Trump spoke about Governor Newsom's handling of the situation. Here's what he had to say.
You have an incompetent governor. Just take a look at the train stations that he's building. Like 20 times over budget. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. So I did call him the other night. I said, look, you got to take care of this. Otherwise, I'm sending in the troops. That's what we did.
Sending in the troops. All right, this just in from Governor Newsom. He says the president is threatening to deploy roughly 500 active duty Marines to LA. The governor posting this just an hour ago, telling residents to, quote, remain peaceful, don't fall into the trap extremists are hoping for. The governor also posting today that he's asking the Trump administration to rescind that deployment of National Guard troops in LA and return them to his command, the state command there. The governor attaching his letter to the White House and saying in part, we didn't have a problem until Trump got involved. This is a serious breach of state sovereignty, inflaming tensions while pulling resources from where they're actually needed. Rescind the order, return control to California. That from Governor Newsom to President Trump.
And we should just point out how unusual it is to federalize state National Guardsmen. So it hasn't happened in decades. So it's quite unusual indeed. That is in part why a lot of the local officials and the state officials are saying this is inappropriate. Don't do it. Please rescind those troops. All right. So we just gave you another view of what's happening from Skyfox as you see a continuous raining of stones and rocks onto those CHP patrol cars on the 101 freeway. And then look at the scene on the right, screen right. This is earlier today when the California National Guard finally arrived. So it was the order went out yesterday. President Trump even suggested that the National Guard was on site and bringing peace to the city of LA before any had actually arrived in the city of LA. But there you have it, visual evidence that indeed there are now California National Guard in the city of Los Angeles.
And we should note that we have largely seen the National Guard outside that detention center, that federal building there. When you wonder about National Guard being deployed throughout Southern California, this is where we're largely seeing it. I did read in the LA Times that they said they spotted National Guard in Paramount, where we had protests yesterday. But right now, President Trump has them, what I can see here, outside the federal building. And you can see quite the confrontation there. And Susan, I think you and I were talking in the newsroom about the California National Guard. I've interviewed and talked to a lot of those guys and women also during the wildfires who were stationed during our wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades area. And a lot of them I talked to are from right here in LA, and many are Latino. And so I'm wondering what their thought is as they watch all this go down in the city that they probably love as well.
Well, I'm sure they feel like they're doing the job that they were told that they were supposed to do. Now, did you also not say that there's some suggestion that perhaps some are saying that they might be able to get out of the duty because they have a conscientious objection?
There was a posting on social media from somebody reliable that has worked in our business who posted something that if you're in the National Guard and you object to being deployed like this, contact this number and perhaps you could talk with somebody. But that was just a posting, again, from a former news colleague. We are watching more footage here as it comes in.
All right, so yeah, so the left corner is a live picture, and then down below is some video that we had.
LAPD we're going to look at here.
Law enforcement working overtime during these protests. And joining us live is Dekron Melkonian, a retired LAPD officer. What is your take? Am I correct in I've heard this before, John, we heard it from John Miller, who used to work for LAPD, that the unusual thing about today is that it is not a coordinated effort. We're used to seeing agencies work together during the wildfires, for example, but this time that's not the case. The California National Guard are here, LAPD, LASD. How are they working? Are they working together?
Right. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It is very unprecedented, right? Historically, LAPD's always worked with federal government or federal law enforcement agencies, but it is such a different issue now because of the fact that federal government has a certain policy to take care of. And therefore, LAPD has to stay neutral, because if we infringe and support of taking immigration stance, then the community generally as a whole will no longer have that trust to call the police, to, if they're a victim of a crime, to reach out and ask for help, because they'll fear as though if they are not a legalized citizen here, they'll be taken. So therefore, it is different, because we still want to support any federal activity that's happening for their protection as police officers. But we also have to have the trust of the community and let them trust us if there's any crimes that are happening against them.
The Trump administration has been quite critical of the state of California and the city of Los Angeles for declaring themselves sanctuaries. Last night, Mayor Bass pointed out our declaration as a sanctuary city is 45 years old, and for the exact reason that you just mentioned, that before they had protections for immigrants, there was the concern that people would be preying upon them and they would be too afraid to report to police or the authorities. And now this. I mean, again, Mayor Bass also pointed out that these raids, which they're taking everybody out of a company, out of like a apparel company, and not really being very discerning on whether or not you indeed do have some kind of violent criminal record. What is your take on that? What is your opinion on how ICE agents are handling this?
Well, it's important to note that that's not my place, because as a law enforcement officer for 30 years, your job as an officer is, regardless of what is occurring, as long as it's a lawful order, paramount is public safety. Obviously, the federal government and their law enforcement have a job to do. You might agree or not agree. Listen, LAPD has over 56% Hispanic men and women working in the field. It is also a problem for them. They might even know people that are involved in this. But as a professional police officer in this city, you have to make sure that the public safety is as paramount important here. So that's what they're doing now. And unfortunately, we're seeing a breakdown of the First Amendment, where we have peaceful protests becoming civil unrest, attacks against others, against public property. And now you're in that position as a police officer to handle a very uncontrollable situation.
Well, the three of us have all been in LA for decades. Susan, you're a native LA, Angelino. Officer, I'm wondering if you can compare some of the major crises we've had. I'm thinking back to the '92 riots, where I was a field reporter out there on the streets, like our Matthew Seedorf is, the riots after George Floyd. What you're seeing in this sign of the times as to how policing is done. We know cell phones are everywhere, cameras are everywhere. Everything is instantaneous when it comes to getting out information, where to go for a protest or to post video. What do you make of how policing is done today?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge challenge, I think, today for police officers. Obviously, look, 2020, George Floyd, this is so reminiscent of that. People are emotionally charged. But unfortunately, some people take that First Amendment and now become violent, and that's the issue. So this, to me, looking back and answering your question, this is very reminiscent of 2020. And you're absolutely right. The social media aspect of it, the organization of these kind of protests involves so many people coming in. And look, there's 80% good people that come in and want to do a normal protest, but there's that combination of people, that group that want to become anarchists and want to utilize this time to destroy the city and hurt others. So 2020, definitely, going back to May Day of 2007, obviously another moment in time where we had this kind of issue. The biggest thing now is to ensure that our police officers have the trust of the community, and we are making sure to continue communicating with them and to know that we are there for them and make sure their families are okay.
Yeah, let's hope that message gets through. Deacon, thank you so much for your time. We're going to move on and go back to Matthew Seedorf. He is down on the ground there in downtown Los Angeles. Matthew, I find it so remarkable how these rocks just keep raining upon most of the vehicles, because we see that the officers themselves are under the overpass.
Right now the officers are firing back. It appears like there's a pepper spray canister that's going out, as my eyes are crying pretty significantly. You can see, we're in the gas right now. All the people have cleared out where we are right now because of this gas, and members of law enforcement firing up. And it's a pretty intense situation still, as looks like members of CHP are still underneath this overpass. We did see one protester get hit by one of those rubber bullets and needed assistance to walk away, as we're still seeing people throwing rocks underneath with members of CHP, it looks like, pouring those non-lethals right back. I will tell you, this gas, it just makes, more gas. It just makes your eyes burn. I don't know if we can see those gas canisters going on.
Don't subject yourself to that tear gas longer than you have to. If you can just sort of walk away, perhaps.
It looked like that smoke was coming that gas was coming right up towards our camera, so we can understand if, Matthew, you need to pull back just a little bit to catch your breath there. Let us know when you want to go.
We're trying to get a good vantage point. I don't know if you can see my eyes right now, just how much this stinks. Runny nose, everything. We'll back up a little bit.
Yeah, the thing is about that mask, it's not really designed for tear gas.
Just looking over here, Elliot, if you want to flip around. So where we're standing right now, this is on the 101 and in Main Street, and all the protesters were lined up here where we were standing. They've since that tear gas is appearing to work. People have moved on. They were firing those rubber bullets up here, but you can still see protesters trying to throw things down, but it definitely seems like it is dispersing the crowd right now.
Well, it's interesting to see how this is happening to disperse that crowd. You have those officers there on the freeway below, and that tear gas coming up. Are you seeing law enforcement on the ground level where you are, Matthew?
No, we're not seeing any law enforcement on the ground level where we are, but it looks like the crowd is pushing this direction onto Main Street.
Is that towards Chinatown?
North on Main Street. Yeah, they're running that direction right now, and then you can looking towards the federal building over here. There's still a large presence of protesters that way. As you can hear people coughing from this gas. I mean, it definitely cleared people out of this area. Are you all right?
Are you all right, Matthew?
Yeah, we're good.
Looks like you're in the path of the wind where it's coming right towards you, and we appreciate your reporting there in these difficult conditions.
Back,
please maybe get out of the path of the wind there.
Right.
Okay.
I have to tell you, Matthew and Christine, we're very familiar with that area because we go down there. It's not very far away from the DOJ where the LASD is. It's not very far away, of course. We talked about it already. The federal building, Little Tokyo, from Japanese American National Museum. And so to see so much vandalism, so much graffiti on the walls is disturbing, to say the least, because again, all the local authorities are saying, yes, you have a right to protest, but your right to protest stops at being destructive and violent. And when we talked to Bill Lasaley, the U.S. Attorney, yesterday, he was quite pointed in saying, if you're destructive, if you hurt one of my officers, we will find you. Now we're looking at Skyfox, and we see these agents, these police officers, as they're running on this road. Is this still part of the 101? Yeah, that is part of the freeway down below. And that patrol car going through that smoke or the tear gas.
Well, Susan, with people on that overpass throwing rocks, etc., onto those vehicles, there was really no way those officers could move the vehicles or move out of that area. And they were taking safety and shelter underneath the overpass there. But also keep in mind, for Angelenos, that means no vehicles going through the freeway in that direction as well. So as long as that freeway is shut down, that's a major hassle for everybody else trying to get around Los Angeles at this point in time. So they were able to move people largely from that area, but you can see people on the top there. Somebody just threw something down right now, so obviously that tear gas only works for so long, and then crowds that he may want to.
Yeah, but look at that guy. Look at that CHP officer. He's got his gun drawn. That is, I believe, a less than lethal weapon, pointing it upwards towards those that are on the overpass. And another lob of both rock from above and a flashbang there. So the goal, of course, is to keep people off of the freeway, because we saw that protesters had managed to shut down the traffic on the freeway. But it's disturbing, to say the least, that these kinds of things are occurring when you understand why there might be a lot of people in the city of Los Angeles. That is a big rock. Hard to see where it landed through the smoke. But a lot of these people are worried about their relatives, their family members, people who are even here legally or were even born here, but there have been instances where citizens have been caught up in the dragnet once they go into a workplace and collect people. ICE agents would collect people. It's remarkable, Christine, how many rocks are on the freeway right now.
Yeah, definitely an area to avoid, the 101 freeway in the downtown area. Obviously, traffic moving in the other direction. Can you imagine, Susan, if you're in a vehicle, unsuspecting vehicle perhaps, driving past this scene?
Yeah, meantime,
my goodness.
Take a look at these officers trying to get back into their patrol cars. That officer just got in there, but the whole time he rushed in. He had another officer next to him with his gun pointed upwards in order to prevent somebody from lobbing a rock onto that officer. So he, looks like.
Question, sippers, as we are taking it all in of the current LA, state of affairs, riots, raids, bombs, things like that. Do you think that the citizens of LA, illegal or non-illegal, do you think they have the right to prevent ICE from going in and capturing any of the illegal undocumented migrants? Do they have the right to stop ICE from preventing them from going in and capturing anybody that's not documented or someone that is on the most wanted list or however have you? Drop that down in the chat as we continue to get caught up on everything that's going on in LA due to the ICE raids.
Like perhaps he was in a situation where the airbag blew, which is going to make it difficult to drive that vehicle. And that could be as simple as a rock just hit just right and blew the airbag. So it's a disturbing scene, to be sure. And look, that guy is just up there with a big rock poised, and he just rains it down upon the freeway, trying clearly to get an officer.
Which is again why they couldn't move those vehicles necessarily with a huge crowd like that. And nobody from law enforcement in the visual that we have there to disperse that crowd. So it's interesting to have watched how they made that happen from the ground there, from the freeway there, shooting up towards the crowd, knowing that that tear gas would float its way up. And it really did, Susan, to watch that in action there, it really did disperse a lot of people there, the bulk of the crowd.
Yeah, but meantime, we still see some people up on that overpass and people that are willing to take a big rock and lob it down onto those CHP officers that are just trying to do their job. Well, really, it's like a misplaced.
And it looks like on the other side of the freeway, there are everyday, passer goers just driving along the freeway as if there's not a crowd of people up top and police cars down here that have been immobilized by the people that are on top of the freeway. This is just wild. This is wild.
These are not ICE agents. They're not going into somebody's workplace and just collecting a bunch of people. That state senator that Gina had suggested there were as many as 80 people were arrested by ICE yesterday, which is double the number that I had heard yesterday when we were doing our coverage. And right now, are they truly illegal? Most likely, but are they truly criminal, like as in violent criminals? And that was the original assertion by ICE and Homeland Security, that the people that they wanted out of this country were those that had criminal records. Violent criminals is what they kept saying. All right, do we want to talk about Congresswoman Maxine Waters? Because she was here. She was in the downtown area earlier today.
Let us also note that LAPD is holding a news conference at 8 p.m. We will take that live to get the update from the LAPD. But yes, we have responses from our senators, from our police chief, from our mayor, and you have also Congresswoman Maxine Waters.
She was downtown this morning and talked about the large gathering of protesters and Friday's arrest of a union president.
I came down here to the detention center to see if I can find out what is happening with David Huerta. He is one of our leaders in organized labor, head of a local SEIU union. I don't know why they picked him up. I don't know what they're going to do to him. I don't want them to deport him. I think that he is being targeted, but our city is being targeted because we're a sanctuary city. Trump hates us. He does not like this city. He's trying to intimidate, and he sent the guns in here on us. The governor didn't know anything about the National Guard coming here. He did it on his own. We can't be intimidated. We've got to get the people out. We've got to get the elected officials out. We've got to resist him. I'm going back out into the communities where ICE was last night to make sure people know that their elected officials are standing with them. Thank you.
Woman Maxine Waters also tried to get into that federal detention center, the MDC, as they call it, the one that we've spent so much time looking at over the last couple of days. And she actually went up to a couple of the California National Guards people, and she says, "What are you going to do? Are you going to shoot me? Then you better shoot straight." She's got a little sass. We love Maxine Waters for that.
She's been around for a long time. All right, so we have this from President Trump, who issued a warning to California elected officials. Let's go ahead and listen to that.
District of California victims could face federal charges if they stand in the way of the deportation. Something that Poland man
will stand in the way of law and order. Yeah, they will face charges.
There you go. President Trump responding to the idea that perhaps local and state officials could be held liable for how they handle this situation that we're looking at now. Skyfox is overhead. You see there, people are throwing fireworks now. So it's gone from rocks to fireworks and flashbangs. And right now, it's just a fraction of the number of patrol cars that were there earlier. But it's clear, Christine, you pointed out that the tear gas did its job and a lot of people moved out of the area. But look at that. They're starting to gather once again. And what is that? Oh, that guy has like a lawn leaf blower or something. But look, somebody's just lit something and then sending it down onto the vehicle there, CHP vehicle.
So I'm wondering if the vehicles that are remaining there are disabled in some fashion, that they can't move, because you had a bunch of CHP vehicles there that did take the opportunity to move when they were able to clear that overpass. Obviously, that only lasted for so long without backup there of law enforcement to continue to keep it clear. So I'm just wondering if those 3 vehicles are just so damaged in some fashion that they can't move.
Well, that's quite possible. I mean, it looked as if we saw an officer rush into the vehicle that we're looking at right there, and then you see there that curtain. That is an airbag, an impact airbag, perhaps on the side. Once an airbag goes off, then yes, it is a vehicle is disabled. Now, I don't know about law enforcement vehicles. Maybe they have ways to get around that, but my understanding is that once you have the airbag go off, then you can't drive that car anymore.
Well, it's more knowledge than I had on vehicles. Very good, Susan.
Must suggest my driving record. Just kidding.
So we're also looking at all the rocks and probably other objects and scooters there on the ground there on the freeway. And there you see some officers there. It does make you wonder how soon then they can open this freeway. Do all those rocks need to be cleared before they can allow cars to come through? Can you imagine driving over those kind of possibly glass bottles if they were dropping things that were glass?
I would imagine Caltrans would insist that there needs to be some kind of clearance of all the debris, including the vehicles and those scooters that it looks like, you know, we're all familiar with the Bird or Lime scooters. And so when you pick one up in downtown LA and you want to use it as a weapon, you could do it fairly easily. It's just, I find it really disturbing. I'm happy to see that the officers are under that overpass so that they are not at risk. But it was a little dodgy there for a while watching as so many rocks were being lobbed over from that overpass. And we see them.
Oh, well, look
we
at
see
that.
people.
Something on fire there?
Yeah, he's setting something afire. That's the second time I've seen him set something afire.
That could do some damage there if that catches
It's hard to see. Is it an actual device or is it just a bunch of grass that he managed to? I was trying to possibly light the airbag or make the vehicle catch fire.
Which we've seen them set several Waymo vehicles on. Oh, okay. Well, look at there. You have law enforcement trying to put that out to prevent any further damage in that area. Not sure how successful they'll be with that crowd. They seem to be pretty relentless up there. Again, the fact that the other side of the freeway is open is amazing to me to see.
Me too.
You can see some people there on the ground there also on the left-hand side. Just goes to show you the chaotic nature of what's happening right now in our city. I'm sure if you're trying to get across town and into the valley or to downtown, and you're going this direction where the cars are moving, you're happy to be able to get through. But what an incredible sight to witness as we see this chaos here in our city. The bulk of the protesters are not here. They have moved on from this location. They've been out all day with their protests against ICE and Homeland Security. This is a very, very small crowd here, still trying to make a difference. LAPD and the other law enforcement agencies are noting that they are keeping a watch on people who are doing things like this. And they are probably going to take note of people who are causing an extreme amount of damage.
Oh, Bill Asaley, the U.S. Attorney last night, he was quite clear and quite pointed by saying, you think you got away with something? Guess what? You did not. In this time period where everyone's posting, where everyone's got a camera in their hand and they're putting it out into the atmosphere, we will find it and we will identify you and we will arrest you. So he had no qualms about saying that you will be on the list. In fact, there was a man from yesterday's protest. They put out a $50,000 reward. They put out a wanted poster with his images from different angles. And apparently, we understand that person was indeed arrested. All right, we want to show you some more video that has come into the Fox 11 newsroom. This was about an hour or two ago, and it turns out that those pink chairs came from the Grand Park, I believe, or a park nearby. And then you notice that the sawhorses, or what would you call them? They're lightweight plastic type barricades or something. Pardon?
Yeah, the white things that they're
the white things, yeah. We don't have the precise language to describe them. I mean, I think of them as like plastic sawhorses, you know, when you put two together and you separate them and you put a plank on there in order to
I'm not
use
sure
it
what
as
the
a barricade.
Official name of them is, but basically what we saw is people take those two pieces of equipment, furniture, and use them as barriers to advance toward law enforcement. So you see them stationary right there. So it looks like they're taking shelter right there, as if using them as protection. But then you would watch and they would use them to advance and move forward towards an LAPD skirmish line. So keep a watch on this. We saw them advance a couple of times as almost in a coordinated effort of people willing to take this risk to move up on right there, that skirmish line. Obviously, LAPD doing what it can to push them back. You even have officers there, mounted units there as well. But we watched it, and it was the most interesting thing to witness as they use it. There they go. There they go. They're advancing right there. Now, this was a little bit earlier, so not sure what happened to this crowd and these people, how far they were able to move forward. And you have to wonder about this level of protest, this level here, that you're willing to push forward with whatever you can grab to advance on law enforcement.
I'm not 100% sure I understand what the point is, but it does give them shelter. It does allow for them to be protected, if you will, from anything that perhaps police want to do. And P.S., this is the first time in the last few days that we've seen mounted police, if I'm not mistaken. All right, we also want to show you what it looked like earlier today on the 101 freeway. You see that skirmish line there. That's because a number of protesters had convened on the 101 freeway, so disrupted the traffic there. And then the police, the CHP, were using smoke canisters to push the crowd back. But as you see, there was like almost like an odd game of soccer where the smoke canister would be kicked back and forth between the law enforcement officers and the protesters. And one of them that went in for a kick and missed it, frankly, he gets taken down by the officers and was arrested and pulled over to the side. That's all smoke. The indication is that was smoke, not tear gas, but regardless, it is not a comfortable situation to be in. That's why they use this kind of non-lethal strategy. But yeah, that gives you a sense for how many protesters wound up on the 101 and stopped traffic as police, the CHP particularly, was trying to get the crowd under control. Ultimately, they were able to push them up an on-ramp to get them out of this area. And that's how they wound up on that overpass there, and perhaps wound up with rocks in their hands.
Well, we look at the different tactics that police use and the efforts at non-lethal tactics, and this was largely effective. You can see police continue to use their skirmish line to advance, to push the crowd back, and eventually did get them off the freeway. But much of the afternoon, this freeway was closed by tons of people there on the freeway, making their protests known, their stand against the police known. But I'm thinking, Susan, of all the attempts by law enforcement to use non-lethal efforts to get people to comply. Right. And this one seemed to work because it did back that crowd off the freeway.
Yeah, they backed up. They were able to get the cars that were stuck on the freeway, they actually turned them around so they could get off the freeway and up and on ramp. And that's what happened to this crowd as well. Ultimately, they kept pushing and pushing to the point where ultimately they had to go back up to street level. Do we have any more video that sort of suggests what it was like even earlier still? So right there, you get a sense for the fact that they stopped traffic. Now imagine what it would be like if you were in one of those cars and you were just going about your business on a Sunday afternoon, and now you're stuck in that mess. And you may or may not have any opinion about what's going on with ICE or the president or the state of the city of Los Angeles, but right there, you're stuck. And I'm sure there were a lot of unhappy people. You never know where they're trying to get to and you know, what they need to do in the course of their day.
You know, it was announced on social media that there was a rally at 2 p.m. downtown. I'm not quite sure what happened with that, because what I saw was not a rally, but more something like this scene here. You see law enforcement right there entering the freeway, and you see the crowd milling about. Imagine you're that white car right in the front there, thinking you're going to be there a while, because how long is it going to take for law enforcement to get in place in any way, shape, or form to get that crowd off the freeway and get those cars moving? And if they have to turn around all of those cars, imagine the process of how long it took for that. But with that protest happening in downtown LA and it being a weekend, not too surprising with what we've seen in the past, people spilling onto the freeway to make quite a statement.
We have seen that a lot more recently, in more recent days and years, right? That protests would then spill out over the 101. So if you're looking at your TV screen and the left corner, that's what's going on right now. And you see those three vehicles, the three CHP vehicles, they seem to be disabled. That's why they're still there. And then conversely, what you're looking at in the larger picture there, it's the same general area, but filled with protesters. And all of those cars, those are civilian cars that got stuck behind the protest. And you see people lined up on the overpass, alongside the 101 freeway, in the median between the north and the southbound lanes of the 101 freeway. And then as Skyfox pulls out, you have a better view of what occurred, or what area it is near the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center. All right, so back live, that is a larger picture where you can see those two, there's actually three CHP patrol cars, and still we're seeing things rain upon the vehicles. There's no officers. They're not going to hit the officers. And some kind of a fire, but we also saw agents with extinguishers. So
are we seeing greater fire now?
It seems that I thought I saw flames.
Yeah, I don't know if that is the vehicle itself.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, so the vehicle
that's
caught
clearly
fire.
A fire. So whether is it the vehicle that caught fire?
I should think, yeah. So they were throwing down something that was lit, and obviously it took hold there of that CHP vehicle, and you have those officers there trying to put that out. Keep in mind, the public is driving right next to this vehicle fire. You know, and for the protesters or the people trying to cause the chaos, that's a statement for them. Look what we did. CHP is still right there on the scene trying to control that situation. But currently, a sign of the times. Remember, this is day 3 of protests here in Southern California. And you can see there are people who are willing to take drastic measures here that are, remember, these are our taxpayer dollars. Taxpayer dollars have paid for those vehicles. And these are CHP officers who are now out of commission. Those vehicles now out of commission should there be a needed call.
It makes me sad. I'm sorry, it makes me sad. This is not a great testament to the humanity of these protesters. Yes, you're allowed to protest all you want, but destruction and aiming at the officers with the rocks, it makes no sense to me, and it makes me really, really sad. They were able, in part, I believe, to get that vehicle or something close to the vehicle on fire, and you just saw it there. They're lobbing fireworks, and the mere fact that they can get the fireworks in that general vicinity is adding to the fact that whatever is incendiary, whatever that can be burned, will burn, but then also the firework keeps the agents away, keeps the police officers away from extinguishing the fire. So that's the tactic. That's a new tactic. Christine, I'm not sure I've seen anything quite like that.
Well, these are very uncertain times here. You can see now more of a police presence there on the surface streets there. It's kind of a interesting picture to see people who've come to be looky-loos or to take part in this kind of destruction. And also law enforcement can do only so much right now. It is non-violent in that there's no, there's a lot of people standing there not doing anything, but then you have those people who are creating so much destruction, and that is the part where we see that the nation's watching this. I've had people call me and say, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
You know, this is something that...
Oh, look at that. Whatever that was that came over the side. Mm-hmm. Sort of ridiculous. Yeah, the nation is watching for sure. And I think the governor, both the governor and the mayor and other local authorities and politicians have said the same thing, which is, yes, you have a right to protest. Don't be destructive. Don't be damaging things or buildings, and be aware that this plays into the president's narrative that the city of Los Angeles and the state of California is out of control. They're out of control. That's why he called in the California National Guard. That's why he's threatening to bring in Marines. So that's also why politicians are saying, please calm down, protest, yes, destroy, damage, don't.
Well, think about it. You've got a city of millions of people who cannot use a major artery now. They cannot use their freeway to get to family or friends or work or medical emergency. So in that sense, there is chaos in downtown Los Angeles where Angelenos can't get to and from because of protests. You have police vehicles that have been damaged or set on fire here that are not responding to a call of an emergency. So there is definite unrest throughout Southern California in the downtown area today.
And remember, so LAPD is on tactical alert. So that's why we see a strong police presence. But say you live in, Sylmar or Arleta and you need help from the police, you're going to have to wait, because right now all the attention and energy and manpower or personnel power, it's all focused on what's going on in downtown LA. So it's interesting to see what that vehicle now looks like. Again, all three vehicles looked pretty much the same, but now it seems whatever they were able to either pour over, or perhaps it's the fire extinguisher, so it's all cloudy now, that vehicle. Mm-hmm. Another firework. And again, that's going to keep people, the agents, the police officers under that overpass to protect themselves. And there's no real reason for being out in the open unless you were trying to get an officer into the car.
Well, certainly uncertain times here tonight in the downtown area, and no word as to how long things will go. I know you were on around until midnight or beyond last night. We have our colleague Alex Michelson, who's been out in the field getting some sound for us from our lawmakers. And Alex, let's talk to you about what you're hearing from the people you've talked to.
Yeah, Christine and Susan, I'm joining you right now via Zoom from LA County's Emergency Operations Center, where we just did exclusive one-on-one interviews with both Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom. And it was interesting to hear from both of them. Were very clear in trying to put out the message that violence is not the answer, and that a lot of the people that are responsible for this violence, responsible for the images that you're seeing on your screen right now, should be arrested and prosecuted, and that they're not helping. But the other piece of news that was interesting from Governor Newsom is that he is going to be announcing a lawsuit tomorrow suing President Trump for this move to bring in the National Guard without the governor's permission. That is not something that happens often in American history. Last happened when John F. Kennedy brought in the National Guard against George Wallace to try to integrate. I actually think it was Dwight D. Eisenhower who did that, try to integrate public school system. And so Newsom is pushing back. Very, very aggressive language against President Trump, calling him a stone cold liar, saying that President Trump wants these images. I asked him, how do you negotiate with each other if that's what's happening and that's what you're saying about him? He said, there is no negotiating with him. I've tried everything. I asked him about the fact that he's asking for $40 billion from President Trump for California's wildfires. And he said, I'm doing everything I can. But there is real anger. And Newsom also saying that what Trump said publicly, which is that on a phone call the other night, that if Newsom didn't get things under control, he was going to bring in the troops. Newsom says that was a, quote, stone cold lie, that that's not what happened on the phone call between the two of them, that Donald Trump is making that up, and that he said he's making up other things, including the fact that the National Guard got things under control last night, hours before the National Guard even arrived. Mayor Bass with a message also that violence is not the answer, suggesting that a lot of the people, the anarchists that are fueling some of this, are actually playing into Donald Trump's hands and keeping this going. And that the best way for all of this to stop is for people to stop with some of this violence. They say there's a right for peaceful protest, but not a right for people in the middle of the streets doing some of what you're looking at right now.
Alex, as we keep you here for a moment, we're going to refer down to the live shot we're seeing here. An LAPD skirmish line is moving in here and moving that crowd off the top of the freeway where they've been raining those and throwing those rocks down onto the police vehicle, setting it on fire as well. So now you are seeing a show of force here as police now are on this level here, moving this crowd away. Maybe they can get them away enough that those vehicles can be cleared and the freeway can be reopened at some point to motorists in both directions. It's going to take some time, but you got to get those people out of there because they're going to continue to do the damage they're doing. And it really is a threat to the other motorists, the innocent people that are driving on the other side of the freeway.
Why the freeway is active.
Right. Who knows if a rock doesn't go in that direction and an innocent person is hit or hurt or killed. So right now we are watching police there move in. Alex, I don't know, is Alex still with us? Can we bring Alex back?
I'm still here, and I'm able to see the live pictures. I didn't know that those were live pictures that we're looking at right now. I mean, they're very dramatic. That what we're seeing right now on the freeway, and we see now the horses moving in, and that's part of what I asked both Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom. How do you get control of this? Because it's clear that things are not under control, and that what's happening right now is not working. And they, said that the National Guard is inflaming this. I said to Mayor Bass, we're looking at right here, not the National Guard. I mean, this is LAPD. The National Guard is nowhere near this situation, and clearly this situation is out of control. They say the president is inflaming the situation, but this is not good, and it doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. And as the sun starts to go down, Christine and Susan, oftentimes things get worse in LA before they get better. And so it is a concerning night right now as fireworks continue to go off.
And you're right. It's over past 8 o'clock here. So maybe now as the sun has gone down, the crowd has thinned out, you have enough LAPD resources in position here that they can push the remaining people off that overpass there and get control of that situation there, get control of that section of the street there so they can regain control of the freeway. You can see there now a lot of LAPD officers, but in that wider shot we saw the mounted units. It is quite a show of support there, and we can only imagine that LAPD was, off camera, getting their resources in place, getting all those officers and those horses in place to now take control. We're seeing now a CHP vehicle safe enough for that officer to go there, get the vehicle, and move it out of harm's way. We were wondering if those 3 vehicles were disabled, so to speak, that they could not move. Obviously, one of them clearly is going nowhere. The other has so much debris and scooters in front of it, it's going nowhere anytime soon without all that debris being moved.
Alex, when you were talking about the governor, I didn't want to interrupt you because when we watched that skirmish line, police skirmish line, they were lobbing like flashbangs in order to push people back. So, yeah, it was quite the dynamic, dramatic shot there.
Yeah.
But again, the CHP.
My apologies. I thought that was file footage from earlier. I didn't realize
you had some good information from the governor for sure.
Yeah.
And did he have any advice on how to get this under control?
Well, of course, he says President Trump pulled back and wanted to sort of divert situation there. But part of what his message is to a lot of these agitators that you're giving President Trump what he wants. His message is that President Trump wants chaos, that's politically good for him, and that these scenes are politically beneficial, in his words. So his message to all the folks out there is stop it. And his other message is that these guys have to be arrested. He basically calling these guys thugs in the streets that are agitating and that are causing all these problems, and that there should be no tolerance for these folks, and that we shouldn't allow this to happen, and send a message to everybody that they need to be put under arrest and be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I said to Mayor Bass, why isn't that happening more? And she suggested, well, just because it doesn't happen today doesn't mean that it's going to happen. But I think there's a lot of people watching right now that would like to see some of the people who are perpetuating violence, like what we're looking at there, to potentially, face consequences as a sign to other folks that that's not okay.
Well, and U.S. Attorney Bill Lassaley told us last night that absolutely that they will be looking for the bad actors and that they will indeed be arrested and prosecuted.
Looks like only one of the CHP vehicles was rendered immovable, that the others are able to get out of the way and off that freeway. Susan, Alex, we've all covered a lot of the unrest situations in Southern California over the decades we've been on the news here combined. And you always have the agitators, the people who go extra when it comes to the damage and destruction. And I'm sure some are trying to make an overall statement against ICE. And I'm sure there are others who are just trying to cause havoc and create damage. And interesting here, they're going to push this vehicle out of the way, push it off the freeway. So they can,
They'll do that. They'll do that on the regular when you have a disabled car on the freeway. That's what they'll do in order to get the car out of the way. All right.
Christine, to your point, I'll just real quickly. It's the same people that we see. I mean, having spent so many years, a lot of the same anarchists show up, whether it's George Floyd or whether it's immigration or whether it's Occupy
Lakers
Los
celebration.
Angeles. Or Lakers celebration or Dodger celebration. It's the same people that in the middle of the night, sometimes when things seem to be winding down, start deliberately provoking or shooting off fireworks or vandalizing and taking it. They want chaos. They like the chaos. They think that's the point. And they have nothing to do with let's have a nuanced conversation about ICE policy and how do we do deportations in a humane way. They want to, F things up, essentially. Excuse me. And that, it is an element of this as well as legitimate anger from protesters and peaceful protesters who are often their message is lost because of all of that happening.
That's 100% correct when you consider there was a peaceful protest in Pasadena, but all eyes were on what was going on, the destruction in downtown LA. But Alex, we need to say goodbye to you right now. We're getting ready for a news conference by police. There's Chief Jim McDonnell.
The public will be met with swift and lawful action. Our goal is to maintain order without escalating conflict and to protect everybody's right to safety. Recent public statements have misrepresented LAPD's action from an incident the other night. Specifically, there was a claim that LAPD delayed responding to a federal officer's request for assistance by more than 2 hours. When we heard that, I think anybody who's a police officer couldn't believe it, and certainly anyone with LAPD couldn't imagine how that would happen. Well, it didn't happen, and I just want to go into that just a little bit. LAPD was not given advance notice that the federal operations would occur in that area. As a result, we were not pre-positioned to respond immediately to unrest related to those actions. Once the call for assistance came in, LAPD responded within 38 minutes. And that sounds like a long time, but I'll tell you why that is. The response was impacted by traffic, crowd density in the area with unrest occurring, hazardous conditions caused by tear gas that was previously deployed by federal agents at that location. Many of our officers, because it was put together in a mobile field force configuration without advance notice, were not equipped with gas masks. But despite these challenges, we moved in quickly and as safely as possible. At no point did LAPD ignore or intentionally delay any request for help. I also want to be unequivocally clear. The Los Angeles Police Department does not participate in or coordinate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement on civil immigration enforcement. We've said this over and over again, and I can't stress it enough for the people in our community who have high levels of anxiety about this issue, that we want everybody to believe and be able to call the LAPD in time of need if they've been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime. We need that. Otherwise, the system does not work. That has been our policy and remains our policy, and it went into effect in 1979. So 46 years ago, that's been the way we do business. On the other hand, however, when a law enforcement agency, any agency, requests emergency assistance to protect lives, we are obligated to respond, and we do. Public safety is our duty, and we will answer every legitimate call for help from anyone. We recognize that immigration enforcement operations can cause a deep fear and anxiety, particularly in immigrant communities. That's why we're committed to transparency, accountability, and treating every Angelino with respect, regardless of their immigration status. Our job is not to divide communities or politicize law enforcement. Our job is simply to keep everyone safe. I want to express my sincere appreciation to all of our officers and partner agencies for their dedication and professionalism during these very challenging times. Their commitment to upholding the law, even in the face of hostility, is a reflection of the values that we stand for. We're working together to keep everyone safe, our officers and the public alike, and this remains our top priority. We'll continue to support peaceful protests and enforce the law when criminal acts occur. The LAPD remains focused on its core mission to protect lives, safeguard constitutional rights, and serve every neighborhood in Los Angeles with integrity. Let me open it up now for any questions you might have or any points that we can clarify.
Chief, the governor made a very strong statement that he didn't believe the Trump administration needed to activate those National Guard troops to take control of those National Guard troops in some limited areas because he felt we had adequate safety protections officers here. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, if I don't know what basis they used to make that decision, but if that was based on our what I delineated here about the perceived lack of response to a help call by an outside agency, that did not happen. We did respond with mobile field force configuration. And just to explain that, a mobile field force is a configuration of people or officers within the organization that we bring in from around the city. We declare a tactical alert so we can break them away from their primary duties of answering radio calls to be able to come in, form up. They're trained in this tactic into a configuration of 4 squads or a platoon that are led by a mobile field force leader. They then go 4 deep in the car and they drive into the impacted area, and that way they can safely go in a large group of officers and able to handle whatever they come across. If we were to send in a single unit or a couple of units into a riotous scene, certainly they'd be surrounded and the outcome would probably not be good. And so this is a configuration that has worked for us, developed here, worked for us for many years, but it doesn't happen instantaneously. So we have to call in units. We have to meet at a certain location. They get the information they need to operate in the environment, and then they go and they take care of business. And so that takes a little bit of time. For us to be able to get in there in about 35 minutes is pretty much textbook. So while we'd love to be able to say we can get there in seconds or minutes, in the reality of a situation of civil unrest, we got to do it right. We got to do it safely for everybody involved.
Hold on. Go one at a time, please, and let's identify name and outlet.
Victor with Univision Chief. We have seen two kinds of groups, at least from Friday, Saturday, and today that have been working. The community that is enraged and they're not happy with the actions of ICE, and then the community that loots and attacks and destroys our city. What would be your direct message to both groups? Yeah, to the people who are not happy with the fact that ICE is in the community doing what ICE does, I respect ICE for being a fellow law enforcement agency. They have their mission. They have their what they have to do. We don't engage in that activity, but again, we can't preclude them from doing that. They have every right to do that. I ask people in the community to trust the LAPD, that we're not there for that purpose, and that if they have something they need us to be able to address, we're there for them. As far as the big picture of what can I recommend they do or not do, that's something it's a federal issue, and the federal authorities have the right to be able to do what they're doing. As far as people worried about the violence that we're seeing, this violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing. They'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers, to throw at cars, and throw at other people. We've seen people with hammers, and you've broadcasted, breaking the bollards behind the federal building and taking the rocks, if you will, or pieces of concrete, and throwing them at officers. We've had liquid of who knows what description thrown at officers. There's no limit to what they're doing to our officers. And again, as I mentioned in my statement, I can't thank our folks enough and our partner agency police officials for going out there and taking care of the community and trying to be able to put themselves between the threat and the overall community. And they do this night in and night out. And in these past couple of nights, we've seen it at a level that I think disgusts every good person. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let me see.
You just described some pretty violent and chaotic situations. What is your position on the National Guard being deployed? Do we need them here?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I would have said that, we could handle this. I believe that we would have gone through a number of steps before we'd have deployed the National Guard or requested deployment of the National Guard. We would normally go to 50% deployment to handle radio calls and do the business of policing, and everybody else would be focused on the initial problem. Beyond that, then we would request through the sheriff mutual aid, and that would bring in members of the 44 other police departments in LA County, as well as the sheriff's office. And so that didn't occur in this case because it wasn't done through the sheriff or through up through the normal chain. It was done from the top down, from the president directing that happened, and then the National Guard was federalized. So they're working for the U.S. Army, not for the California State National Guard. Do we need them? Well, looking at it tonight, this thing has gotten out of control. I think before I could answer that, I'd have to know more about what their capabilities are, what their role is intended to be.
to be able to make that determination. But we have great cops in Southern California here that work together all the time. So we have tremendous capability here. To say that we would go to that right away, I'd say we wouldn't have been there yet. Looking at the violence tonight, I think we got to make a reassessment.
Laurel, how has your department interacted with the National Guard, if at all, since they've been here?
I'd say very little, other than we had a conference call this afternoon. There aren't a whole lot of soldiers in place at this time. They're still incoming. But the people who are here, they're tremendous Americans here trying to do, they provide their service, doing the task that they're charged with. Our relationship has been tremendous overall with the National Guard. We worked right alongside them for 5 months during the Palisades fire. They were there every day in the beginning in large numbers, and then that narrowed down before they demobilized. But the relationship is overall tremendous. We're very, very good partners with them, and I hope they feel the same about us.
And when you look at the demonstrators who are people from the community who are upset about, the immigration rates, families being broken up, deportations happening, do you feel any sense of kinship with them, or about this situation, or do you see that there is need for more law enforcement and for more immigration enforcement in Los Angeles?
I think the federal agents are enforcing federal immigration law, which is their right, and anybody can have their personal opinion on to what level that should be, who should they focus on, and those kind of things. I won't take a position on that because really that's not our focus, not our job. But when I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, that's not the people that we see during the day who are legitimately out there exercising their First Amendment rights and to be able to express their feelings about the immigration enforcement issue. These are people who are all hooded up. They've got a hoodie on. They've got face masks on. They're people who do this all the time. Get away with whatever they can. Go out there, from one civil unrest situation to another, using the same or similar tactics frequently, and they are connected. Some would call them anarchists or by any other variety of names, but they're people that we run across routinely, city to city, and this is what they do. So even more disgusting that many of the people who are doing this come in from other places just to hurt people and to cause havoc.
Chief, let's go next to Telemundo over here.
Okay.
Soy Navarro from Telemundo 52. Do you think that the presence of National Guard increased the level to this kind of situation? I mean, you said that it's disgusting. Do you think that if you control it with them, without them, it could be a different situation?
I don't know. That's a very interesting question. What was the catalyst for us seeing the second and third day of this becoming increasingly more violent? To be able to say it's because of the National Guard, I can't, because there aren't enough on the ground at this point to make a difference. I've seen civil unrest a number of times before, and generally the second and third days are more violent than the initial phase. And so this is not much different from that pattern, but certainly I think there's a number of things that cause people to come out. Much of it is they watch this and see it on TV, social media, whatever social media outlets they follow, or asking them or telling them to come down and be part of this, and they do that. And they come out here, and many come out and just want to see what's going on. They're out there with their cameras, but they're putting themselves in harm's way and potentially setting themselves up for a criminal future. When you look at some of the things that are happening here, somebody could easily be killed. And if you're part of that, then you're going to be facing those charges as well. I talked to the DA just a couple of minutes ago, and the DA will file felony charges on individuals where it's appropriate, but won't be shy about doing that where it is appropriate. And also the potential for federal charges, given the type of environment we're in. And the federal authorities don't play. And so as we move forward, I think people will be surprised in some cases for what happens to their future.
All right, let's go 2 more questions. Anybody that hasn't asked already, go ahead. Thank you.
Lindsay Pena, KCLA. Given the amount of officers that are here in downtown LA, how does that affect response times in other parts of the city and the safety of people that are not down?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. A great question. It was, how does the the deployment of so many officers downtown or in any one part of the city affect our ability to provide police services citywide, it greatly impacts our ability because it pulls officers who would normally deployed in communities around the city of Los Angeles into one area in order to be able to address the threat that we're facing. And so other areas, when we go on tactical alert, that means we only handle radio calls of significant importance, meaning a violent crime in progress, calls that have to be answered right away. So the other calls get put on a queue and may not get handled for some time to come, and they're important to everyone who is a victim of any kind of a crime. And so when we go to tactical alert, we don't do it lightly, but in this case we did it very quickly because we needed additional resources right away to be able to help quell the violence. And that situation, as you can see tonight, has only gotten worse.
Chief, given what you said about not being informed so you could pre-stage for the incident that started this thing, I understood, I believe that you spoke with the ICE director as well as other city officials today. Is there any effort being made for ICE to share information about what their next move?
Yeah, that's something that we did talk about, and there's no resolution to that. And the problem is that we are guided and bound by the California Values Act, which means that we can't participate in any way in civil immigration enforcement. So the federal partners have been reticent to provide information to us before something happens because of that reason. Part of that is they want to be respectful of the rules that we have to live by, but it also, on a normal situation, not that big a deal, but in a situation like we saw here in the past couple of days, it turns out to be a very big deal. So we're going to continue to work with the partners that I mentioned and many others as we go forward to try and be able to make things as safe for everybody as we can.
All right, Spectrum.
Chief, how many arrests so far?
You have that?
Yes, Captain Raul Javel, Operations Central Bureau, Incident Commander. At least, this is very fluid and preliminary, at least 10 people arrested so far. There's arrests being made as we speak. About 3 officers injured. Fortunately, very fortunate on very minor injuries, or I wouldn't say not minor, but they're not significant enough to be transported to a local hospital. They were treated at the scene. But we're making more arrests as we speak, and we're trying to get into that posture where we're able to make arrests. Right now, really, our officers are really under attack. If you can see, when the chief was talking about, we're trying to, first of all, ensure that our officers are safe and the public is safe, and then we'll move into, if we can arrest, we'll arrest, and then obviously protect the property and our vehicles and other things like that. But as of now, 10 arrests.
And if I could just jump on, and then 29 last night as well. And so as we move forward, we will step up our arrest posture in order to hold people accountable and do what we can to stop this violence.
We're going to go 2 more questions.
Really quick, yeah, she asked the question I have real quickly. How long can we expect for this situation to happen?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
How long do you think this situation is going to continue?
Yeah, for me, again, that would be speculative to say how long that the members of ICE will be in town doing the enforcement actions they're doing. But by calling out the National Guard, oftentimes their deployment periods are in 30-day periods. And so, to me, it's going to be an extended period of time. I don't know how long that'll be. We're gearing up for that to be able to participate in a meaningful way as we move forward without exhausting our people beyond what they already are. We're a department that went through 5 months plus of the fires and dealing with the fallout from the fires. And as you can imagine, with a very limited sized department to begin with, that's a big stress on our deployment, but more so on our people and their families. So as we move forward, we'll do everything we can to focus on employee wellness and to be able to offer whatever services we can to address the needs of our folks.
Sure. We'll go one more back there because he hasn't asked yet, and so Carmen, go ahead, and then one more, and then we're going to call it.
So, just 2 questions. One, is there a chance of instituting a curfew? And 2, will you be going back and re-looking at any of these incidents that maybe there wasn't an opportunity to make an arrest at the time, but going back and trying to investigate who's responsible and potentially arresting after that?
No, thank you for the question. I spoke with the sheriff today, and we discussed the possibility of implementing a curfew. We don't rush into doing that, but if we need to do that, I'll go back with the sheriff and we'll look at the options as far as that goes. And as far as give me the second part of the question again.
For some of these incidents we watch unfold, a lot of people watch
I gotcha.
things just unfold in real time,
Yeah.
thinking, are any of these people going to be held accountable for this, for the cars on fire and things like that? Is there a chance of going back?
Absolutely. When you look at the numbers of arrests we've made, pale in comparison to what will be made. There are video accounts of what happened everywhere on social media, on individuals, cameras, iPhones. We will go after that very aggressively. Go after the all available video, analyze that video, and hold whoever we can accountable for the variety of different types of crimes that have been committed. And that's something we'll do with a number of different partners with levels of expertise that may be beyond what we have. No, thank you for that.
Matt Armstead from the LA Times. Can you tell me on what charges people were arrested yesterday in this?
Do you have the specifics?
So yesterday, the 29 folks were for failure to disperse. They were all arrested today. So today, so far, this is very preliminary because there's so much stuff going on. The stuff that we know is one person was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at an officer, a significant incident, and then another individual for ramming a motorcycle into one of our line where the officers were and injured one of the officers. Everything is still very fluid, and I won't have that for a while.
Was anyone arrested on the freeway or related to the freeway?
So CHP has made at least 17 arrests that I'm aware of in the freeway.
All right, thank you, everyone. Commander Hurtado will stick around to do comments in Spanish for anybody who's interested.
All right, so we were just listening to the chief of police of Los Angeles talk about his assessment of what's going on right now, the strategy, the fact that it's really remarkable, but he's not working with ICE, not working with the California National Guard. Pointed out that the National Guard has been federalized and therefore working for the U.S. Army, not for the state of California. There's a lot of things out there that he's considering, including setting curfew. He's still talking to LASD about that. And speaking of which, they've called in LASD to help with the situation. As you see, it's still very dynamic.
Let's talk with retired LAPD Captain Paul Vernon. Thank you for joining us by phone here. We just heard from Chief McDonald. What do you make of what you just heard in that news conference?
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
First of all, longtime friends with Chief McDonald. He is the best pick for the city, and listening to him, his comments were right along what I would expect him to make. I have one little correction on that I think things are not getting messaged well or correctly explained. This is a completely different situation as I see it, of the National Guard being federalized and sent to Los Angeles, completely different than what we saw in 1992 or 1965 or any of these other times to deal with the fire. In each of the fires that we had, in each of those cases, the National Guard comes here to support local law enforcement. Local law enforcement gives them their missions, and mostly it's for them to go to fixed posts so that police can continue to patrol and make arrests and maintain law enforcement.
But Captain, you're pointing out the fact that this is extraordinary. It is extraordinary. In Chief McDonald's own words, this became a top-down situation, not a situation where local police called and said, hey, we need help.
Okay, I understand. This is where I'm getting to my point. So I've made that point. In all those cases, locals and state ask for the help from the National Guard, and they come. In some cases, the president federalizes them. In this case, the president federalized the California National Guard. Why? To come here and provide a security force for federal law enforcement officers, not to come and patrol the streets, not martial law, not to report to the LAPD, to report to ICE, so that they can do, for example, what you saw them do out there. Stand in front of the gate, or what you will see them do, stand around the perimeter of the federal building in downtown Los Angeles. When ICE goes to a raid somewhere, they can go with them and provide the security for them.
What
That's not what we
in
saw
Paramount,
today. That's not what we saw today. We did see the California National Guard in Paramount today. We did see them elsewhere other than just in front of the federal building.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you did. You saw them where ICE went. You did not see them out reporting to a local law enforcement. If you remember back in Portland, when Portland in 2020 was being set on fire and they were attacking the federal courthouse there, the local federal agents tried to secure that courthouse. What really could have happened and should have happened would have been since the police didn't want to help the feds here, which is the case here in Los Angeles, the police, through the state government and the local government, do not want to support the feds in immigration enforcement. Fine. That is fine. In the past, anytime local FBI, DEA, ICE were to go and serve search warrants, they would also always call local law enforcement to be a uniformed presence there. And people would know that this is a law enforcement operation, and they would go and conduct their operation and they would leave. Local law enforcement won't do that for ICE. So what you saw in Paramount yesterday were FBI agents, DEA agents, HSI agents. They were all called out of their offices to stop what they were doing to provide the security for ICE so it could do its job. Well, they can't do that every day. We won't have FBI agents working in their offices. We won't have DEA agents taking down cartel drug dealers in Los Angeles. They'll all be doing security, which is not their job, out at ICE raids. So the National Guard can come in here, per the president, as a federalized unit, and take missions with ICE to go to those locations and give them. I'm sorry,
sir. With all due respect, that is not the sentiment that was put out by the President of the United States. He put out the information that suggested he was calling in the National Guard to get the city back in order, and then took credit for bringing peace back to the city of Los Angeles before any agents were actually deployed, any National Guard actually deployed.
And this is the problem with the messaging. That's not what their mission will be, because they aren't going to come in.
But that's what he said. But no, isn't that what the president said? The president put out the messaging that suggested that the National Guard would come out to do what local PD could not, to do what Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass would not.
Yeah, okay, to do what they could not and would not, which is support the ICE doing their job.
No, that was not the
doing
suggestion. That was not what he was suggesting at all. And others from the Trump administration. Bill Asaley was saying the same thing. Or I take that back. I'm not quite sure if Bill addressed that specifically.
So exactly then, what you're claiming then is that that 200 National Guard, or if it goes up to 2,000, are going to be out walking the streets in Los Angeles?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. He says he's calling up 2,000 National Guard and then federalize them. Okay. Correct? We agree with that. That was his initial statement. But he also went on to suggest that part of the reason was because Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass were not doing enough to keep the city in a state of status quo or peace and not erupt into something. And they basically, both of them suggested that doing that was more inflammatory than it was in any way helpful.
Frankly, the inflammatory part comes from the local politicos here, who come out and basically apologize for some of the behavior of these people, justifying it because Trump has done something they don't like.
Well, I don't know that they're justified. They're calling for the arrest of anyone that was destructive or damaging or hurtful in any way. Hurtful meaning injuring a police officer. So I don't think that's the case. What they are saying, though, is the mayor said to us last night that when you go into a company and just round people up without giving them an opportunity to prove that they have citizenship or they have documentation that allows them to stay there. She was in total disbelief that it could be that all those people, dozens of people, fell into that category of the original sentiment that came out of the Trump administration, which was, we are going to find violent criminals and keep them out of the country.
Those are very emotional and sad accusations that are made, but none of them have been proven.
Whom?
You had a report by a state senator in Pasadena today that the ICE who were staying in a hotel as guests rounded up employees and asked them for their ID.
She didn't suggest rounded up. She did not suggest rounded up. No, she didn't say that.
That state senator reported that based on secondhand information. And then your reporter repeated it and asked another person what their opinion was of it. And she never once went into the hotel and said, hey, did any of your employees get stopped by the ICE agents who were guests here? She could have done that, and I'll bet you the answer is no.
Well, she's not here to defend herself. We don't know for sure what Gina Silva, who is an excellent journalist,
I know Gina
done
Silva. She is an excellent
in the
one.
course
But
of her
there's
job of putting together a story for our newscast earlier today. Captain Paul Vernon, thank you so much for your opinion and your sentiments in this regard. We really appreciate the fact that you took the time to talk with us.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
All right, you're looking live now here. It is after 8:30 p.m. on a Sunday night in Los Angeles, California. You are looking at downtown LA, a crowd there on the move. These are continuing crowds from the protests that have been happening all day, 3 days straight here. Just a small group here. We do note law enforcement from the LAPD to the Sheriff's Department has been down there on the ground. Not sure exactly why they're continuing to walk. I can only guess that law enforcement continues to move them along, push them along. Again, we saw all day where they basically took over the 101 freeway in one direction and damaged at least one CHP car. Several were there stuck on the freeway until the crowd could be dispersed. LAPD moved in quite strongly this evening, and now you have some stragglers, so to speak, still there in the streets of downtown LA and clearly there on the move.
All right, Matthew Seedorf is on the ground for us in the downtown Los Angeles area. Matthew, you experienced some tear gas. What are you seeing and experiencing now?
Yeah, right now we're outside of City Hall. There's been this ongoing standoff taking place with protesters and law enforcement. This is actually the LA County Sheriff's Department here. We're seeing someone try to get into this barricade right now. You can see him being met with sheriff's deputies. He's trying to explain I'm trying to go this way, but right now they're not letting anyone through here. Looks like he's getting hit with maybe some pepper pellets as he's turning around and walking away. If you want to pan down the street, they've actually pushed, there were probably a couple hundred protesters here just a little while ago. They've pushed them beyond City Hall. Something is on fire in the middle of the roadway, and the protesters kind of got pushed that direction just a little while ago. We saw that police firing those non-lethals and protesters just retreating that way within the last 20 minutes or so. Elliot, I don't know if we can try to set the scene here, but we believe that it's possible these protesters were trying to take over this part right outside of City Hall. They even have some words up on top of City Hall that they're throwing up there right now. But pan this direction, you can see they were trying to make their own barricade with these benches in the middle of the street, blocking enforcement from coming in to where City Hall is. City Hall, and then sounds like we're hearing these non-lethals. This is what was happening. So this is kind of what they were firing. Law enforcement was firing at those protesters to get them out of here. You can see what these non-lethals look like. We've seen some people take some hits while we were over on the freeway over that direction. And right now it looks like is something, you can see the fire. Let's see if we can zoom in and see what we're looking at here. Yeah, you can see lots of protesters in the street. And it looks like they're
and Matthew,
scooters, and you can see the fire.
Matthew, farther down that street, there seems to be a greater collection of people. So past the fire, there seems to be a greater collection of people. And I'm just wondering if they are just hanging around, if they're waiting for police to approach them, or if they're just standing by.
Yeah, we believe that is the group that was outside of City Hall. So they've been pushed now about, 2 or 3 blocks from where we are. They actually had several cars, it looks like their own personal vehicles, kind of where that fire was, and some barricade fencing that was there. And then they've retreated now a couple blocks further into the city. There's separate groups right now kind of protesting that we're seeing. There's that one group by the freeway. There's this other one that's kind of going right through downtown, moving from City Hall.
And Matthew, we should point out that you are standing behind a number of sheriff's deputies. So the LASD has come in now into the city of Los Angeles to help with the policing with LAPD. They also, I believe, brought those or did the wire barricades there, that at least the beginnings of it, although right now there's only one. Perhaps the protesters have moved them. At one point, while Chief McDonald was talking in his news conference, we saw a number of the protesters setting up those, A-frame traffic barricades and other things that almost look like a page out of what we were seeing with the anti-Hamas or the pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian protests at the campuses. But then that's all been torn away now. It's gone now, and I don't really know what their point was. Do you have any sense for that, Matthew? I mean, they were going to create this barricade, and then what? They were going to be trapped inside their own barricade?
It's really hard to speculate. I mean, this is right outside of City Hall. It seems like they were trying to barricade themselves right here on the street right in City Hall. For what reason, we aren't exactly sure. Maybe at least tried to slow down law enforcement from getting to where they were. Law enforcement came in firing those non-lethals, the pepper spray, the flashbangs, and it looks like those protesters have since pushed back at least a few blocks, but left some fire behind on their way out.
So Matthew, as we are watching this scene here, we are noticing all the cars, the public that is driving by this scene. Reminder of the chaos still happening right now in downtown Los Angeles. It is a Sunday night coming up on 9 o'clock, so perhaps many people are home for the night, not necessarily going out, say as it would be on a Saturday night, but still an area perhaps to avoid. Obviously, downtown is a changed picture from decades ago. Many more people live downtown. It is a place that has quite built up with high rises and restaurants and
there's actual nightlife in downtown LA now.
Exactly. So many more people downtown who just live there. And so, Matthew, I don't know if you can gauge a feel for, is it people who seem to just be kind of lingering around, people who live in the area, or actual protesters against the ICE raids?
Yeah, hard to speculate. I'd say it's a pretty large assortment of crowd, right? So you have people that were here to protest today, and then there's some noticeable agitators. I mean, especially when we were standing over the freeway, you saw people taking hammers, trying to get rocks to throw down on top of the CHP vehicles. We saw electric scooters being thrown. We saw a cone with some sort of fuel being thrown into the CHP vehicle that momentarily set it on fire. And right now, it looks like, I mean, you can see there's hundreds of protesters where you're looking at right now beyond First Street. And it seems like the sheriff's department here is just trying to hold the line at City Hall. And it's hard to know what's on the other end of the protesters, if there's more law enforcement or if it's just if it goes for a few more blocks.
And we don't tend to think of downtown LA as being a territory patrolled by the sheriff's department. That is LAPD territory. So I'm guessing the sheriff's department is there in support of LAPD.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, they're definitely here in support. You can see LAPD driving by right now, responding to something else, and you can see the protesters giving them a bad time as they're driving by with that fire there as well.
And we heard from Chief Jim McDonald, who just had a news conference talking about how they deploy, that they were not aware that the federal government was going to be doing ICE raids in Southern California on Friday. And so that caught them off guard. He talked about how it takes them some time to deploy when you have a crowd scene like this, like we saw Friday, like we saw Saturday. And what they do, he said, is they roll 4 people deep in a police car. That is A, for their own protection, be to get more people quickly into an area. Normally we see 2 people per car. But in a situation like this, they staff it with 4 per car. It takes time to mobilize and get in place, as it probably did, Matthew, for the sheriff's department to get there to downtown LA and mobilize with the skirmish line.
And I should point out that the police chief did want to dispel a rumor or some kind of narrative that is out in social media that it took LAPD more than 2 hours to respond to the call for help by federal agents in that federal building. And Chief McDonald said, nope, that's not true. 38 minutes. It would have been faster if not for the fact that the officers knew that they were going to have to go in with gas masks. They couldn't just respond. They would have to be prepared for whatever they were going to face. Now, we have Skyfox in the left corner of your TV screen. We don't know what attracted the pilot there to hone in on that, but we've got Matthew Seedorf on the ground looking towards First Street, and it looks like there are quite a few people and lots of vehicles that are passing through that intersection, and you're nearby City Hall, so there is an attempt, of course, to keep people away from that general vicinity. But what's going on from Skyfox, it's harder to tell. But it certainly suggests that there are a lot of people spread out throughout the downtown Los Angeles area.
And you can see from this aerial shot here quite an LAPD presence there. Last night, Susan, you were on the air to midnight? 12:30?
About midnight.
About midnight last night. So obviously, the police department has a track record from last night as to what we saw in the downtown area. Remember, tomorrow's Monday. We saw the freeway shut down, the 101 freeway. You can't have that on a Monday in Los Angeles, California, where people are going to work.
Well, the mayor actually, when in her news conference earlier today, she pointed out that perhaps it was advisable, if you're able to work from home, to avoid the downtown Los Angeles area. Not because she believes that this will persist into the morning hours, but clearly there's a lot of ways in which the city needs to sort of refresh or clean up or what have you. I do also want to point out that last night, the temperature, the view was nothing like this. We would see things sort of ebb and flow, but it was never quite this number of people, this number of protesters or bad actors, whatever you want to call them. We saw federal agents lob flashbangs and tear canisters, but other than a couple people that perhaps were lobbing a lot of verbal threats or verbal comments, we didn't see very much. There were reports that some of the protesters were indeed throwing rocks. I do want to point out, and Matthew, I don't know if you witnessed any of this, but today LAPD arrested at least 10 people. They say it's a dynamic situation, and clearly the number of people arrested is going to go up. And CHP, because you were right there, right near the 101 freeway when it was overtaken by protesters, they say at least 29 people were arrested. That's what CHP did. And pointing out that while last night, most of the arrests were failure to disperse. So that's a low-level offense, correct? But today, this is what speaks to how things have ramped up and how the temperature has gone way up. Now the offenses are getting to be much more serious, including injuring an officer, including ramming a motorcycle into a skirmish line. So you were there yesterday in Paramount, Matthew. Compare and contrast what you witnessed in Paramount versus what you're witnessing now.
Yeah, it's really hard to compare. This one, it seems like it's scattered out over several locations. You've had members of law enforcement that were forced to abandon their vehicles on the freeway. We got a firework that just was launched right there. Yesterday, it was Border Patrol right across the street from that Home Depot for reportedly a staging ground. It was mostly Border Patrol at that main scene in Paramount. There was no LASD there or local police department helping them out for a few hours, honestly. And then LASD helped with kind of closing down the freeways in the area, preventing more people from getting in. But it was kind of really focused on that one spot, where it today feels like it's scattered over several blocks of downtown.
Yeah, it seems more widespread. Skyfox now over a gas station in the downtown area. Again, sometimes we're not 100% sure why the pilot, whomever is handling the camera inside of Skyfox, will focus in on a certain area there. But it does speak to how much traffic, which for a Sunday night at almost 9 o'clock, it's sort of unusual to have that kind of traffic downtown. It's stuck in traffic. It looks like there's a little bit of a traffic jam. Now, the other thing, Matthew, I'm wondering, since you were in Paramount, that community, by the way, is heavily Latino. A lot of people there are concerned about family members, and that is what brought them out. That's what, stoked perhaps their passion against federal agents and Border Patrol, what they were doing in that staging before they went out to do the actual raid. Flags seem to be a part of the protests these days. And I've noticed that there are so many more flags in downtown LA, different kinds, than what we saw in Paramount yesterday. Am I wrong? Was it mostly Mexican flags yesterday that you saw, Matthew?
Yeah, it was Mexican flags. And, honestly, I think today was a little more planned out. I know this morning I was seeing flyers about protests in downtown LA starting this afternoon. And I think yesterday in Paramount just kind of happened. I think someone saw what was happening with Border Patrol vehicles and, posted something on social media and got people to come out to that location way less planned. And then beyond that, it spread. People started hearing about it and more people kept on showing up, especially agitators as it got later. Today feels like this was more of a plan. People had planned to come out here and protest what they've seen the last few days. With that, some agitators came out here as well.
Yeah, indeed. The chief of police, LAPD's Jim McDonald pointed out that people would come with their backpacks, and inside the backpack would be a cinder block, and then they would take a hammer and break the cinder block apart. And that is why there was just a lot of supply, easy supply of rocks or, I guess, pieces of cinder block, where those people, the bad actors, the instigators, whatever you want to call them, agitators, could from that area over the freeway just lob those hard rocks, pieces of concrete over onto the CHP and those vehicles. So, and then he also pointed something else out, which is very disturbing, that his police officers are getting hit by some kind of liquid, and he's not sure what that is. His officers are going to be worried about what is it that I got sprayed with. And so he pointed out that was no good. And he has said what a lot of people have said, including Bill DeSaley, the U.S. attorney, that thanks to social media, thanks to the fact that everybody has a phone in their hand, that there's a lot of photo and video documentation, and that people will be prosecuted. They will find them and they will prosecute them. But yeah, part of what is happening now are a lot of these agitators are doing things that are just beyond. This is not a sign of protest when you're spraying police officers, when you're breaking up cinder blocks, etc., in order to be so destructive. And Matthew, you and I have been downtown many, many times. It is remarkable how much graffiti there is. The difference between Friday to today is really remarkable. Every wall that can be marked up, now marked up.
Yeah, there's a lot of graffiti, a lot of vandalism. I heard you talking about the cinder blocks. We saw people taking hammers and breaking pieces of, looked like concrete or pieces of the sidewalk, and that was what they were using to throw onto the freeway on top of those CHP vehicles. And just looking around right now, you can see benches that have been thrown everywhere. You've got the graffiti, and then not to mention, we've been talking about those rocks that were being thrown at members of law enforcement today. It's definitely a very intense situation. As these protesters have moved now beyond City Hall, from where we are right now.
Well, it looks like those sheriff's deputies, they do have the riot shields with them, but clearly they are in a relaxed position. They don't feel the need to use those riot shields. But again, if you're just joining us now, we have LASD deputies on site in downtown LA in the jurisdiction of what would be LAPD. So clearly there's a coordinated effort now between LAPD and LASD.
Joining you back now, Matthew Seedorf. Hi, it's Christine Devine here. We are watching, looks like some kind of medical vehicle coming through the streets on the top of our screen. Not sure where that's headed or if it's tied at all to these protests here. Some kind of ambulance, it looks like, hoping everybody is okay. Also looking at a picture here with a lot of people on motorbikes. We know that's a big Southern California pastime to have bike clubs, motorcycles of all sorts, hoping they're not planning anything, that is other than just enjoying a ride on a Sunday night here. Obviously, we know a lot's going on downtown, a lot's happening, a lot of unrest, a lot of people that are looky-loos, and others doing things like this, setting something on fire there. So it is a night of confusion still in Southern California. And if anybody's watching from another part of the country or the world, this right now tonight is limited to the downtown area. I know I had somebody call me from out of state asking if I'm okay. People have texted me, am I okay? Right now, the only unrest we're seeing has been in the downtown area on this Sunday night.
We want to show you some video from earlier today. We've talked a lot about the fact that the 101 freeway was shut down and the fact that Jim McDonald pointed out people were coming to the downtown LA area with cinder blocks in their backpack, then breaking them up. And that is in part what allowed for these bad actors, the agitators, to throw them over that overhang and then try to set the police car on fire and what have you. We are also getting this information into our newsroom now that Fox 11 is hearing from officers who are processing arrestees that a staffer with Lucia Aguilar Cole, City Council District 14, was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. Now that could be that she lobbed a rock over onto the 101 freeway. It could be almost anything. We don't know specifically what caused her to have that kind of reason for arrest, assault with a deadly weapon, but a very serious accusation indeed.
We are getting this information also. The Little Tokyo Arts District station is closed tonight, according to Metro. Trains are bypassing that station in both directions. The A line is not running between 7th and Metro and Chinatown. Bus shuttles will replace those trains. Now, I'm guessing people who are watching this, not everybody rides the bus or the Metro in that area, but if you know anybody who does, going to or from work perhaps on a Sunday night, trying to get home on a Sunday night, that area is closed due to these demonstrations. And I almost changed the word from protesters to demonstrators to even agitators at some point, as with some people as we look on tonight. But it's enough disruption to not only have closed the freeway today, but now Metro and the bus lines, or the bus shuttles, will replace the trains in that area. Again, it's a Sunday night. Tomorrow's a whole different story, it being a work day here in Southern California. I'm sure law enforcement wants to get everything under control tonight.
All right, I just want to rescind something that I said, suggesting that Lucia Aguilar Cole is with the Council District 14 as in city council person, but that is not the case. Council District 14, of course, is Isabel Jurado's district, formerly Kevin De Leon's district. So we're trying to figure out who exactly is Lucia Aguilar Cole, but some very serious charges against her, arrested apparently for assault with a deadly weapon.
They talked about the arrest yesterday. If you're wondering, is there any kind of follow-up by LAPD, by the city attorney, the district attorney? Yesterday, LAPD said 29 people were arrested for failure to disperse, one for throwing a Molotov cocktail at police. And they also said that they are with cameras being everywhere, if you are a true agitator and you think you're getting away with this, they're saying that there are cameras and that they will prosecute and they will take people into account and hold them accountable for their actions. Right now you see a heavy presence by LAPD. This is again in the downtown area. You can see a lot of graffiti with words that we prefer not to show on TV, but unfortunately this is live breaking news. And you can see the remnants of these protests and demonstrations are going to be felt for some time as people look around and see the statements that have been made on somebody's corporate building there, somebody's business there.
Yeah. In the past, I know that the woman who runs the Italian-American Museum of Los Angeles, she was quite saddened, and I hope her building is okay. She's in the basically Olvera Street area, not far from Chinatown, et cetera, but not far from where we are now. And she was quite saddened that that there was graffiti on her building because it's an older material, so very difficult to clean. Not quite sure about like some of the federal buildings and how easy or not it will be to remove the graffiti. Okay, another spot fire there in the street. I believe this is this the turnout that is close to Olvera Street? So across from Union Station is the northern end. Is it the northern end or still close to the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center?
Not quite sure on that one, but it is in the greater downtown area. You can see with that heavy police presence there and then somebody setting that looked like a big trash bin, trash dumpster set on fire as motorists are driving by. Just that reminder to stay out of the downtown LA area. And as these ICE raids happen in Southern California and the protesters respond, keep an eye out and ear out for areas perhaps just to completely avoid not to get caught up in the traffic or the demonstrations. Right there, a live picture of City Hall as the nation is watching what's happening here in Southern California. Some in pure shock and awe as they see our city burning right there with a spot fire there in the middle of the street as people are driving by. Is that somebody?
What are you looking at?
Well, I wasn't quite sure what somebody, if they were pushing a cart or a stroller or what. But anyway, you have that street right there in the middle of downtown LA. Obviously, motorists are not able to get through that area. And I'm wondering too, Susan, as we talk about people using their cell phones, how much people are getting a thrill out of posting on their social media, getting that photo for their Instagram or their moment of fame, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good question, but that does make it easier for either the FBI and Police Chief McDonald, by the way, pointed out that they've got teams that know how to scrape the internet and figure out who you are based upon the social media posts or the video that gets put out there. We just noticed that somebody brought over, we don't know what it was, apparently it is flammable, and put it on that spot fire there, something that was carried over, and it took a couple people to do it because there was some heft to it. And you see, now we see other people that have decided to find things that perhaps are flammable. Let's add it to this fire. And you have to wonder, at this point, it's a focus for whomever these people are. I just hesitate to call them protesters because how does this protest the raids by ICE agents? How long were LAPD, law enforcement, allow this to go on, allow this to affect traffic, allow this to become sort of a drawing, a focus for some people that want to hang out in downtown Los Angeles and cause chaos?
Well, what happens is they move from block to block to block to block. In case you're just joining us, this is Fox 11 News. We are on early. Normally we are on at 10 o'clock with Susan Hirasuna. I'm Christine Devine joining in for this live coverage on day 3 of protests here in the greater Los Angeles area here. And this is a scene at night. You have this Sunday night scene here in downtown LA. Not a lot of people holding, you know, anti-ICE signs in this crowd. So you have to wonder, look at somebody there has a tripod set up in the middle of the road with a camera as they're documenting this scene. And you can see just steps away from our beautiful City Hall building that is all lit up right there. As we pan across here and look at Southern California, again, reminder that the 101 freeway had been shut down today by the demonstrators, by the demonstrations, by law enforcement. And that, I'm guessing, Susan, we haven't checked back on the 101 to see if it's been reopened, but here you have another crowd gathered here at this Alameda point.
It's after 9 o'clock, and you see there some kind of dumpster, some kind of container that they were successful in being able to set ablaze.
All right, tea sippers, that was all of the understanding that we need. 1 second. From the ICE raids, right? A lot going on, y'all. I really want to send a message out. You know, we can get our cross without us continuing to die in the street like dogs. So I would continuously encourage everyone to please stay safe as you possibly can. If it's not your fight, then fight in a better way than allowing yourself to be murdered, killed, however have you, for a fight that's not yours. So thank you guys so much for learning more with Tanisha Talks Teas on exactly what's going on with the ICE raids. Okay, remember, stay safe and stay sipping. Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay sipping.